Pick the Nintendo Shack and pray. Frederick from Fire Emblem Awakening says, yo.
Greetings, Kooplings, and welcome back to the Nintendo Shack, episode 173, and I am particularly peppy about tonight's episode, as we have a lot to talk about. We have the Pokemon Presents recap, which I thought this entire show was going to be dedicated to until Bloomberg started publishing stuff last night. So we're going to get started with a little Switch Pro talk, but before we do, let us give thanks to those that help support us over at patreon.com/PSVG and let us do fancy production stuff like this new studio thing we're using to stream with. So thank you, Michael Masick, Barry Cathcart, Edwin Callow, Stephen Keller, Nick Creature, Rude Days 93, Ben Moxham, Rob Emanuel, Nick Fallhaber, Paul Calicote, Kyle Heyman, Grouchy Surge, Chris M., Devin Tyus, Josh Borboni, and our newest Patreon producer, RJ Kern. Thank you so much for everything that you do and helping us and helping to support us over there. So, pack show. I'm going to try my best to make sure this show isn't 2.5 hours. Pack show, lots to talk about. So we're going to skip what we're playing. But as you guys, if you're watching it live, you already see that we have Michael Kozwara back, who was in episode 108. So it's been a while. It's been like a year.
Yeah.
We had you over for Pokemon. You're a freelancer. You've done freelance work for Kotaku and IGN, and it was a PC Gamer and the Washington Post.
One time, but yes.
Hey, that is one. You're in the Washington Post? That's a big deal.
You can say it, man.
And you were over for Sword and Shield, and we talked about the national decks and all that stuff back then, and I thought it'd be great to have you back, talk Pokemon again. You did a lot of the guides for like Omega Ruby, Sapphire, Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, and all that stuff for IGN, and that is the Lord's work to go.
No joke.
It kind of is a little bit, yeah.
So before we get into that, just how you been doing, man? What you been up to? Anything you want to point people to, or anything? What have you been doing lately?
Well, before that, can I just say, so I listen to the Nintendo Shack, not every week, I'll admit, not every week, but
that is,
I listen to
you.
Ouch.
I'm just gonna go now. But I listen to like the bigger episodes, and I always hear that intro, the Frederick from Fire Emblem. I just saw it live for the first time, and I just, whoa! I did not expect that. So I'm encouraging people who were like me and just listen to maybe check out the live stream once in a while. There's some good stuff here.
I got that drop live in person, and the folks that have listened to the show for a very long time, they know that I got another drop that we normally don't use anymore. But when I met is Kyle Hebert, he's the voice of Gohan, and he's Frederick in Fire Emblem. And when I met him, I asked him, I was like, hey, we do this thing called the Nintendo Shack, and everybody asked him to do the Frederick line. And he was like, oh, you want me to pick and pray? And I was like, can you say pick the Nintendo Shack? And he was like, yeah. So we go to record, and he goes, this is Frederick from Fire Emblem. And I forgot the line already. What? And he looked at me, and he goes, I'm so sorry. I was like, you don't understand. That's the best drop. This is better. So like for 100 episodes, we used the one that he screwed up. And then I had the nice video done, and I didn't want to, to just be a joke, but I think our longtime Shack listeners really enjoy the inside joke of him just forgetting the name.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess about me. I'm writing for a site called Ven.tv. It's kind of like a new gaming site / streaming extravaganza type thing. And I'm doing a lot of mobile game coverage. So those are games too, people. They're pretty good.
Right?
Don't
They're very popular.
Are you sure?
I mean, I think a
Are
lot
they?
of us
Are
underestimate
they?
how huge the mobile gaming market is. I mean, even if people like us aren't really into it, it makes up a really high percentage of what people play.
The gaming space is a tiny dust compared to the mobile gaming market.
Yeah,
Let's just
I hate Mario Kart on mobile. I hate the Mario Kart Tour game with a severe passion, and I may have ruined it for me forever.
Is it because of the actual game or
no, it's just I don't think it's fun. I don't think it's fun to play. Like just the steering and doing that with your finger. I'm like, this is not good. So,
well, the Nintendo games on mobile are pretty rough.
What a great way to start off the show.
So negative.
That I hate it, Mike. I hate everything about it and all of your coverage.
Okay, well,
you're welcome.
Okay, well, that's really, really cool. We have folks in the chat that are saying that they follow Vin on Instagram and things like that. So that's cool.
Nice.
I don't meet your heroes, folks. As Michael doesn't listen to us, I also don't venture to the Vin. So I'm gonna have to try that out. I'm sorry. I'm feeling punchy tonight, guys. Can you tell? I'm in such a better mood today than I have been. It feels like in 10 days.
Oh, that's good.
Shaq, man. It's Shaq night. We got Pokemon news. We got all this stuff. So let's get into it because, like I said, it's gonna be a long show. So, Super Switch resurfaces last night over on Bloomberg. The report reads: Nintendo plans to unveil a new Switch console with a bigger OLED display later this year.
Whoa.
The display is 7 inches, 720p resolution. It's from Samsung and is expected to go in production in June with a monthly target at 1 million units. The OLED panel will consume less battery, offer higher contrast, and possibly faster response time when compared to the Switch's current LCD display, says Yoshio Tamura, co-founder of display consultancy DSCC, whatever that means. This is very interesting news because we've been hearing about the Switch Pro for a long time. We've been covering it for 18 months here on Check. And
basically,
I didn't think it was going to be this year. And even after last week when we had Nate the Hate on his podcast and on Reset Era say like he thinks it's this year because devs have dev kits and things like that. They're you know, and Jeff kind of backed him up. You know, Jeff was like, yeah, I think it's this year. Jeff went a step further. He said, I think the plan is for Zelda this year too. That wasn't he didn't say he knows. I want to be clear. He just said, I think that's the plan. This kind of backs up that plan for them to go into production in June at 1 million units a month. That's, you know, that's sometimes you're counting till November. It's 6 months at leadway. Even if you're only counting to September, it's still 3 or 4 million units. I mean, that's some time to start putting these together. And this Switch that we've been hearing about for a long time might be on the way. So just before we even get into it, Rebecca, what do you think about a Switch successor update refresh coming this year? Now, do you think it feels real now?
I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of weight to this report. I see a lot of people saying leak. It's not a leak. It's a report, which there's a difference. I do think that is part of Nintendo's plan. I think all along it has been to get it out at the end of this year. I think it makes sense with the Switch timing. Whether or not they're still able to meet that deadline or not, I think is the question. I think if we don't start hearing something by April, May, we might be seeing that they're not reaching that target. But I think if we start hearing something soon, and if the production starts in, what did it say, June?
In June, yeah.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the light unveiled?
There was a quick turnaround for the light.
It was a huge.
So it shows that they can do it.
Yeah. So I dove down because I think this is more the Garrett Bland and I geek out part of it.
I totally geeked out.
I started diving down deep, like Reset Era threads, Reddit threads, trying to get some particulars on this. I did get a chance to talk to Jeff today about it a little bit because the magic word that has been said with this Switch model is DLSS.
Yes. Deep
learning super sampling. That's the thing everybody's wanting. You're going to take your 720p game and we're going to make it look amazing. It's going to make it look like a PS4, right? And I mean to say PS4 because I don't think it's making it look like PS5, but it might be able to put it in console space. All right. I don't know if they're doing it or not. I don't think anybody does, so we don't have confirmation on that. Although we do have very heavily rumored that it includes DLSS. So what I was able to basically, I think, come to the grip with, if it does support real DLSS from NVIDIA, they need a new SoC. They need a new chip. Do
you want to explain to people who are listening who might not know what that is, like just kind of a general, because I think the general population probably doesn't know what that is.
So with the Switch, we've got the Tegra, right? We have the Tegra X1, and it's been refreshed. Oftentimes you hear the new one called the Marico, which is the new Switch, like your new red box Switch that has like 10-hour battery life. That's the Marico chip of the Tegra X family. This is a chip that NVIDIA makes. They make it for their Shield and all that. It's part of a SoC, which is kind of the whole CPU, GPU thing together. It's the system.
Yep.
There isn't enough room on the current die of the current Tegra chip that we have, and I don't think it's even the right architecture. And that's getting a little bit beyond me. So Garrett, if I step over myself here, correct me.
I'll let you know.
There's not enough room or enough efficiency in the current chip to do DLSS. It needs tensor cores and all this other fancy jargon that the chip we currently have doesn't have. So if this is real NVIDIA DLSS, it needs a new chip. And that's exciting for a lot of reasons, because one, it could be a much better system, right? Like it could be beyond like your new 3DS, I guess, is when you start getting into a new chipset and all that, it becomes a new, better than that little incremental bump.
It's better than an iteration that we've seen in the past in handheld devices.
Especially from Nintendo.
Yeah, from Nintendo. If we ever get DLSS in this thing, I don't really think Nintendo is going to market this term as much. So I know we're talking about this a lot in perspective, like from the technical standpoint. I just don't see when the Switch Pro gets announced or Super Switch gets released, I don't think we'll hear a word about DLSS, just performance.
Yeah, for sure. So the performance is huge.
The performance leap is huge with DLSS. Is just tech that I don't know, Donnie. I don't know about it needs different architecture. Did you see that from an article or a video?
Two things that I feel as much as I can. And Michael, if you feel like you've got some insight that I don't have, because I'm not a PC gamer, so like the more and more I dive into this, the less confident I feel in it. But I feel very confident in a couple things. If it has DLSS, it needs a new chip. Okay. And it can't be in the dock. Everything that I've seen, for DLSS to work, it needs to be on the SoC, which in the chat, system on a chip. That's what the abbreviation means.
Yes.
It has to be on the SoC. Like, you can't have this magical DLSS chip in the dock that does it for you. I want to talk about that, because that's been the report that we've been tracking, right? Is that the dock is doing something that the current dock doesn't. Michael, anything on any of that?
This is like a learning lesson for me, actually.
All technical jargon.
Yeah, you guys said for the casuals plus Michael here, because
I think the DLSS. I think that's kind of what I meant. Like, a lot of people don't really understand what that is. It's really to give an upper resolution to games that don't have.
So it is image reconstruction. Yeah. So you can take a 720p picture, and through this machine learning AI, it will rebuild that picture in a way that is very close to what that picture looks like in 1080p or 1440p without losing performance.
Yeah.
That is what this DLSS is about. And you can see it. I have it on my laptop and my PC. I ran Cyberpunk with it. There are some amazing videos. I sent Rebecca a few earlier. There are videos of Death Stranding running at 300p, but with DLSS turned on, it looked like a 1080p picture. It looked really close to a 1080p picture, and it was rendered at 300p or something like ridiculous like that.
So what are the downsides to this? This sounds all just positives. Why doesn't everything just use this?
So
it's new.
It's very new. It's NVIDIA proprietary tech right now, and it's a machine learning algorithm that they have produced and developed. The reason why the Switch Pro would have this kind of technology is because NVIDIA is the chip. It's what's powering the Switch. I think not everyone's using it because the next gen consoles are AMD based. They don't have this deep learning as much. They're starting to develop it, but next in line for the consoles though, this Switch Pro is probably the next in line to have it, and it's only gonna be kind of better. If not, sometimes DLSS it does pretty good, but sometimes it doesn't reconstruction wise.
So what we're kind of saying, I guess, and correct me if this is wrong, is that this is a way to have upscale graphics on this new Switch model that wouldn't be on such a small device that would normally be capable of.
Exactly. That is exactly it.
Just
like it is
to put it in Rebecca terms for everybody other Rebecca out there. It
enables hardware to punch above its weight. It makes it be able to outperform its basic components. It's not necessarily about just raw GPU output or teraflops. DLS is a software-based tool that lets you go beyond.
Which means we'll be able to keep the hybrid model on the Switch because it will be able to do both handheld and docked. We're hoping. I don't want that handheld aspect to go away. I know a lot of the things that we were talking about before, that a lot of the sacrifices to get those high-resolution graphics would be to make it only docked only. And I don't want that.
And I think that's where, so getting into the other point, and the reason that we bring all this up, I should have said this first. The reason we bring all this up is the Bloomberg report continues to push that this is a 4K device. It is capable of doing 4K. So everybody's like, how is that possible? DLS is one way that that's possible. I have this second theory. There's a second thing out there. NVIDIA has an AI upscaler that runs on the Shield.
Yeah.
The Shield TV and the Shield tablet, that's not DLSS. It's just upscale. It's like their own algorithm for upscaling, and it is pretty effective. It really clears up a picture. You can see side-by-sides on YouTube. You can go, like, they even have a demo mode where you can slide it back and forth. So it's very easy to tell the difference. With the report, right, the data mine leak that we were talking about a couple months ago, that there's a chip in the dock that's doing this, I wanted to know, like, is it possible that that's what this is? That it's like this kind of lower end version of DLSS. It's the same chip, but it has like this upscaler. All the reports are that it's DLSS, so I don't think it's likely, but I'm wondering if like something could be lost in translation here, like with the communication, and like maybe that's it. Maybe it is like a much, it's a better Switch with the same chip and everything, but on the dock, when you dock it, it has this little extra upscaler that kind of makes things a little bit better.
So what's upscaler versus DLSS?
Well, the dedicated cores and everything let it go beyond.
I mean conceptually. Oh, it's just a minor. Is it the same algorithm though? Kind of, but not as good. All right,
not nearly as good.
I think we're getting the weeds a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
We're getting in game tech territory here. Let's get back to the device. All right, so an OLED display. That's like the same display that the Vita used, like the original Vita.
It's so pretty. Okay,
everybody loves OLEDs. We're gonna get a very high contrast, dark, deep blacks,
the colors,
vibrant colors. Shaq listeners have heard me a long time say, like with Breath of the Wild, like there's like this sheen that's always over the picture, like this white filter grain kind of. With OLED, I think that would go away. So you would see a sharper picture almost just by changing the screen out, even with all the same components. And then the fact that we might get an overclocked chip, or with the OLED being less demanding on battery, just more efficiency to push, and or DLSS, we should see a significant boost in frame rates.
Frame rates and battery life is a huge thing on handheld.
Who is racing? Where did that come from?
I'm right next to a window.
Michael's over here in Fast and the Furious outside.
Basically.
Yeah, a boost in performance. It could be a significant boost in performance. Like there are already really, really cool overclock demos of Switch of people that like jailbreak them, and they overclock them just by a little, and they get like Dark Souls at 60 frames.
That's crazy.
So we're not asking for like the world is ultimately what I'm trying to bring up,
Can we talk about how a 7-inch would be like no bezels at all on the screen?
Yeah.
It's just big, and you can see more of everything.
Same exact size, and then you just stretch out the bezels that are around the border. That's probably the best
today, and it looked really nice.
Yeah. I remember Johnny retweeted it. Yeah,
might have been.
Yeah, they did a thing of what it would look like if the screen was stretched to the bezel. And if they did that, if they did keep kind of the same case, but they stretched the bezel, it would enable us to keep the same Joy-Con rails and systems. So like your Joy-Con should still work and still snap into everything. We were talking about that before, of like, would the Joy-Con keep going? Guys, this is exciting. I did see one price estimate early, $349.
Oh, that would not be bad. I don't think
give you guys
bad.
Any sticker shock there?
No.
$340. I don't know if they
How
could
much is
keep
this
the same
right now?
price.
$299?
It's $299. Yeah. I just don't. I've never seen a reiteration being a higher price. That's my.
How much was the new 3DS?
Well, the Series X was a.
No, I'm talking about Nintendo. Just handhelds, reiterations, stuff like that. I never seen a higher price. The new Nintendo 3DS was $250 or $200. I forgot, but it was definitely not higher than the original 3DS price. Yeah. The one thing that I actually got some pushback on Twitter, which was interesting, was this 720p resolution. Yeah. I got a couple people are like, wow, they're still doing 720p on this handheld machine. That's not that good compared to the 4K consoles out there. And people have to realize this is a smaller screen. Now, our screens right now on Switch, it is a 720p screen. In 6.2 inches, which is pretty good. It's a very high pixel count. It's just now most games on Switch, they can't really hit 720p on a lot of games. Like, they really can't. So if they can nail down the 720p resolution, the only thing that's going to be better is battery life and frames. And let me tell you, frames makes a lot more difference to that game versus resolution at 1080p or something like that on that small screen. So I just want people to realize this is going to look really good with an OLED screen, and I'm glad they're not trying to push the pixels on it on the handheld side.
I'm talking too much, so I'm going to sit back and let somebody else jump in here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I had a bunch of notes written down.
Yeah.
Does not mesh with all the
Listen,
technical stuff.
I don't know anything tech. I just go based off of what you guys say. I could not, to be completely honest with you, all of this goes over my head, and I don't care all that much about it, how it looks. I just want it to be, if I had what to say on the Switch Pro, I want faster load times. I want bigger screen but thinner, better battery life, and I want Breath of the Wild 2. That's my wish list. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, so I think my biggest concern going into this, and it's always been the case since we first started hearing rumors about this, is the player base. I don't want anything that will even remotely say this is for these types of Switch owners and this is for the other kind. Kind of like with the new 3DS, even though it was really minimal, it might have been just Xenoblade Chronicles.
It was like 3 games.
That was it. But even that, I don't like the idea of just the moment you split stuff up, it gets more confusing. I don't think it's a very successful strategy for Nintendo themselves to begin with.
I don't think that's going to happen at all.
So I'm cool with whatever happens. Just keep the Joy-Cons. Well, fix the Joy-Cons.
All right.
Keep everything the same, but just improve it. Let me play the same games. Let everyone play the same games, and that's all I want. When I first saw the news and I saw 4K, I'm like, all right, this is going to be amazing. Not so confident with everything that just transpired in the last 10 minutes. I don't know. Because I'm trying to explain this to me, a simple person.
Yes.
Something like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I particularly remember being.
Yeah,
it's rough. It's rough performance, man. No joke.
And that's dock included.
Yeah.
What does that mean for something with this TLSA and all that?
So there are actually some examples on YouTube of what Xenoblade 2 would look like with DLSS turned on. You would just get a much sharper. So one of the cool things that DLSS does is kind of mimics anti-aliasing. So it's much less edgy. It'll smooth out the edges of a picture very well. So with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's a very edgy game. Especially when you're playing it, it is very edgy. All the grass and the trees and all the foliage and everything gets real edgy to look at. With the borders and the lines and everything. So it would smooth all that out. So just from the get go, you see a smoother picture with a slight res boost, maybe a little sharper image.
Okay. See, what I remember from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is that it was very muddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna sharpen everything.
It's gonna sharpen that up a bit.
So that's the
Quite a
sharpening
bit.
part. Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
so like I hear that. Great. If
You're all in.
everyone else still plays Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on their old Switches, beautiful. If I get a better version, also beautiful.
I saw Imran.
Michael, I'm completely with Michael on this one. Make it look pretty, fancy, cool, shiny. I'll take it, but just give me the good gameplay.
Sure. I saw Imran. He really referred to it today. I think it was on Reset Era. He said Switch Pro, not Switch 2. And he said that this is really aimed at like FPS boosts, getting a frame rate boost. If they upgrade the memory, you'll get loading time boost. But it's not going to be a new Switch experience, right? You're not going to be like, oh my god, I can't play the old way anymore. I don't think that's really what this is aimed at. It's you're going to play the Switch, but we're going to clean up like all these things you may not like about it. I think this is aimed for me and Garrett. I actually think that's what this is for. This is for us. They're like, oh, I just wish it ran at not 20 frames a second. Like I wish it ran, at 60. I think this is for us. Yeah. I'm not even sure this is something Rebecca even needs to upgrade to.
Not unless there's a pretty Zelda special edition.
Unless you want to just kind of play it as best you can. But like for us, I know like I want to play Breath of the Wild too at its most optimal.
Yeah, most beautiful way it can be.
I will pay to do so.
Yeah.
Like I will gladly give you money to do so.
Michael, I was just about to say, Michael, have you played Splatoon 2? Like quite a bit? Or any, okay. You know how good that feels, right? It feels like more like 60 frames, I think, on handheld and also on console. That same feeling is going to be on a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on Switch Pro.
And like that's what I would expect. If that was not the case and I got a Switch Pro, I would be severely disappointed. Yeah. I don't know what else it's for at that point.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Meanwhile, if the new Switch model lets the loading time in the beginning of Splatoon 2 be completely diminished so that I can immediately jump into a game instead of waiting through those long load screens.
Yeah. I think it'll be a little quicker. It wouldn't be like drastically different with the loading time.
Storage, unless they just change the RAM.
Right.
If I mean, we don't know. And we went pretty deep into the tech dive, and I'm sorry, I got really lost into it. I wanted to try and see what I could kind of sleuth out of it. I do want to talk about the 720p screen because Jeff was going to war almost immediately. Yeah, did you see him? He was
I saw he was going to battle with it.
Yeah, he was going on, and there are a lot of people upset. And I would actually say that I'm probably a part of them. I kind of wish it was just a more vibrant screen, but I think the thing that's being lost in that resolution debate is the OLED. The OLED at 720 is going to look a lot better than the LCD. It's going to look really nice. The same resolution is going to look a lot better. So I think, if you're one of those people that play primarily handheld, the OLED screen alone is probably worth the upgrade.
Yeah, do you see the screen sometimes on handheld that kind of looks, I don't know, there's some spacing in between pixels, like you can count the pixels inside. Yeah,
you get that little checkerboarding kind of effect.
Yeah, OLED screen completely smooths that out.
No.
And oh my gosh, Rebecca's like totally not into it.
Not gonna lie, never thought
of it. I know exactly what you're talking about, Jared.
And see the difference.
But the OLED, Rebecca, it's gonna be so crisp.
I believe you.
Like when you watch the Nintendo Switch like commercials, like when it first, you remember like how crisp Skyrim looked like when they put it on the little
because it was
picture fake
quality. Yeah,
that's what the OLED will look like. Like the OLED will look like that. It'll be very, very vibrant.
Sure,
very excited. If you can't tell, I'm very, very excited.
Just wanted to let you know the games I'm playing on handheld right now, the newer games I'm playing: Bravely Default 2, Project Triangle Strategy. It is a battery hog like no other. I'm playing 15 minutes of it. 25% of my battery life is going out the. Yeah,
on the original model.
This is the original, so not the new one. But still, it's like the loading times are abysmal now. The battery life is scaring me a lot. I'm ready for a Switch Pro. Give me a little bit better device.
Jen wrote in, okay, LED 4K, that's cool. What else are you hoping for in an updated Switch? Will I finally get Bluetooth?
I hope we get Bluetooth.
You would think.
You're talking about battery hog.
The Vita has Bluetooth.
You're right. I think it would be a very pro feature to have. I agree with you. I think it's good. Even if your battery life drains, it's like, that's on you. You're the one choosing to use Bluetooth. Like, you just turn it off if you want. What do you bet, Mike? You got anything you want on an updated Switch?
Well, the question came up. I'm over here staring at it. Like, what could be better than this? Because I really do love my Switch. Maybe if it wasn't so flat, but that's part of the design. Like it's
the ergonomics.
You nailed it for me. That was my answer. My answer wasn't necessarily the Switch stick that I know, like the Joy-Con stick that I know everybody's going to go for. My thing is the Joy-Con, like the shape. Yeah. I would like them to put like some groove on the back of the shape and make it a little curvy or give you some grip to hold. I have the new Benbach Joy-Cons. We've seen the Hori Pro pads and everything. I want a new Joy-Con that's more like that. Even if they keep the same stick, I don't care. I would like something a little more comfortable to hold.
I totally agree. Update that Joy-Con. Get a better feel, a better grip to it than what we have right now.
I would like that a lot. What are you, Rebecca?
Yeah, same with that. I think I would prefer if the Joy-Con had more of the like the curve to it and feel for it. I think I would like just want the Switch itself to be a little bit thinner and sleeker with the bigger screen. Like I said, definitely better battery life. I wanted to stay hybrid. That's my number one. I don't want the hybrid to go away. I know, but I hear people talking about it and it makes me nervous. I don't want that to go away. Bluetooth would be fine. And faster load, like I want faster load times. Like that all of that stuff matters to me more than the graphics.
Trust me, I'm playing Persona 5 Strikers. I want faster load times too. Trust me. Hobie 1K, this week's latest Switch Pro rumors does the Shack believe Nintendo's next hardware release will be the next gen console, will be more of an iterative update like the 3DS was. I think it's going to fall more in the lines of the iterative update, but I think it's more like what the PS4 Pro was to the PS4 versus the 3DS. Like the 3DS wasn't really that much of an upgrade. Like it really hard to even showcase the difference. I think you'll be able to showcase the difference. I think like Doom Eternal, for example, will run a lot better on the Switch Pro than it currently does on the Switch. And it runs really good on the Switch for the Switch, right? But I think it will run better on the Switch Pro. I think that'll be the difference. I don't think it's going to be a new Switch generation leap that there are a lot of people out there that are really excited. I've seen several headlines out today. 4K, it's like the PS5. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay.
Let's calm slow it down, guys. You're getting ahead of yourself. But ballpark. And ultimately, I think for us as Switch owners, I think the most important part is this Pro might mean that we get more ports or better versions of ports of those games to make their way over. And maybe on the original platform, Mike, sorry if you're going to stick on the old one, it may, be Outer Worlds over there. It may not be super great, but on the Pro, it's at least some sort of the parity, actually, as Down of Destiny says in the chat. It's ballpark. It's close.
It's definitely not next-gen console. It can't be because it would alienate an audience that the momentum's going way up. So, totally agree. It's just going to be an iterative update. It's going to be a lot more than what the new 3DS was, for sure.
Rebecca, give us your best prediction, the exact day and month that the Switch Pro release. And what will its name be?
Right now.
I want them to call it the Super Switch so badly. I don't think they will, but...
I don't think they will either. I was thinking about that today. Does the idea of a Super Switch kind of give off, like... I know why people like it, because Super NES, but it kind of gives off the vibes of like a new console, doesn't it? It's like you have the Switch and then you have the Super Switch.
I
kind of think they want them to be in the same family of devices.
Yeah, when I hear Super Switch, I think of Super Nintendo, and
it feels like the next Switch, like it's the Switch 2, the Super
I guess
Switch.
So. Yeah,
December 10th.
December 10th.
Interesting.
I think it'll be late.
You think of what day is that of the week? Friday. Okay.
What do you got, Michael?
So I think this report and then the idea that it's going to start going into production, you said in June or whatever the case is, I think that's very much in line with what they've done in the past with the 2DS and the XL versions. They usually come out in August, September, which I know is really soon, but you know how Nintendo is. It's you wake up one morning and they have, there's a new Paper Mario game just out of the blue. Okay, sure.
Month out.
So I'm going to say September 2nd, 2020.
Ooh, close.
And I might add a 0 at the end of the 2, just to be on the safe. I'm going to stick to September 2nd, but That's my second guess. September 20th, and I think that's a Friday. I think they release things on Fridays
They normally do.
now.
I picked September 17th. I'm also going with the optimistic Switch light kind of approach, where, yeah, I've you guys know I've been talking about this for about a year. I thought that they would release this alongside Zelda, with the Switch Lite, and like where Zelda may or may not be. Like, I'm not necessarily holding myself to that. I do think they'll show them together, but like I think it's possible they launch the system ahead of it. They're like, hey, let's get the system out, let's get people buying it, and then like Zelda comes at another time to be determined. So I'm gonna go a little early and be optimistic. I got September 17th.
Oh, okay, interesting.
The 2nd is a Thursday. Do you want to amend that, Michael?
The 3rd.
The 3rd. That's pretty good. I'm thinking more along lines with Rebecca. I don't think it's as late as December, but I think it's gonna be right before Black Friday, right before those holidays. I'm gonna go with November 12th.
Ooh, I had the 5th written down because I was like, "That's absolutely out before Pokemon," but yeah,
somewhere around there. And I would call it. I think they would call it the Switch Plus.
I like that.
I think the Plus is simple, but it's an extra tag word that people will get. It's a new thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going with.
They're not going to just be derivative and call it the Pro. Although I like the idea of the Switch Pro, but they're not going to do that.
I think that would be a bad name for it.
The idea with and I don't mean to push back on your guys' predictions. I think, if anything, your predictions line up with historical Nintendo. But the reason I didn't go with that pick at first, because I was thinking if they enter production in June, right, that's 6 months out before they launch. If you're going to November, 7 months if you go to December, just feels like a really long time for them to be making millions of consoles they're not selling.
Personally, I added time due to just I feel like that estimate that they put out is ambitious for what this is compared to the light production. I know the turnaround for the light was very quick, but I think that considering things are a little bit different right now than they were during the light production, considering everything that's going on in the world, considering it's a bigger project than the Switch Lite, I would say, for manufacturing purposes. And you said parts are hard to come by, Garrett. That's why I tacked on some time, because of all of that. I think that even if they want it to come out in September, I think that it just might need more time. And then the marketing, I think, is going to be a bigger deal than the Lite.
I mean, we're seeing it now, like with PlayStation 5 and Xbox. Like, don't launch until you have quantities that you can sell.
Yeah,
it makes
sense.
True. It makes sense. I was thinking, just to throw it out there, with the Bloomberg report now, if I'm thinking it's coming out earlier, like Michael, they could throw in, like maybe this launches with like Wind Waker or, Twilight Princess or something like that. Like maybe they announce Breath of the Wild for November or January or March or whatever, but maybe these ports that we're looking for, maybe like that's a part of it. It's like, hey, here's this new Switch, and here's Wind Waker or something else that they throw out there in like that early window, but out in front of Pokemon, of course. Rebecca, you're wrong. Last question was, what do you think the new Switch will cost? I threw it out there earlier. I saw the cost estimate. I think it was from wasn't from Matt Piscatella, but I don't remember now at the top of my head. But he said $349. I think that makes sense. I think the better question is, does the Switch Plus, if we want to call it that, does it replace the current Switch, or do they have 3 models on the market at that point? Do they go Switch Lite, Switch Plus, and they have 3 models that they're selling for the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, they're not really having trouble getting these systems out. They're still selling, so I don't think they have a reason. It's not like, okay, the time has passed on the original model. I don't think that's the case. So I do think it's going to stick around, and they'll have to advertise this new one as like, this is the better one. Upgrade. This is the better one. So
do they cut the price of the OG one then? If they're going to keep it on the shelf, and you think you have to drop it at least $50?
No,
I don't think so. For the same reason, really.
You go $199, $299.
Talking about Donnie
$49?
Against what we were saying a few weeks ago, where the Switch is selling like hotcakes. Remember, we were talking about with Mike Minotti. We were saying, what is the point of putting out a new Switch model right now when the current Switch is still selling so well? And I think it wouldn't make sense to really push both of them at the same time. Like, who is this really for if you're marketing both, if it doesn't take over the current Switch?
My guess was that it would replace the current model.
But
they would sell out the current model, and then this would just take
it would have to, but it's just so foolish, I think, to do it so soon.
But if they did both, like if they were gonna have 3 models, I think for price parity, I think they have to cut the standard Switch. They got to bring it down $50, I think,
or keep the new Switch at the same price at the very least.
I think,
or it's really expensive.
I think Nintendo. Yeah, I think no joke. I think Nintendo's cocky enough. It's like, you know what? We'll sell this system out. Yeah, we'll put it at $399.
Listen, Garrett and Donnie are tired of playing at 23 frames. They'll pay whatever.
They'll pay whatever, man.
And they're right. They're right. I will.
People like you would do it, and then a year later, they'll pull a 3DS and say, "You know what? We're sorry. Like, here's 10 games for your."
I'm totally fine with that.
I love my Switch so much. I'm sure all 4 of us do, but I want it to. It's not that I want it to like look better, right? I want it to play better. I want better frame rates, more stable frame rates. And like the expectation of better performance, I think, is even the better way of putting it. Like, I don't want to be like, do I get this game on Switch or Xbox? Like, I want to be able to buy it on Switch if I want to buy it on Switch, because I want to believe that it, at the very least, it will play rock solid. I don't even really care about the visuals. 720p, 1080p, who cares?
As long as it's 60 frames.
To play well. Yeah, I just want it to play smooth. Okay, that's it. That's all of our Switch Pro stuff.
We're done with Switch Pro.
We're done with Switch Pro. I think we've exhausted everything that's got out of it. Rebecca, why don't you take over and lead us through Pokemon news?
Yes, sorry, I was muting because there's a big train going by.
What wisdom on my behalf to throw it to you.
We got a Pokemon Presents, which was really exciting. It was very similar to the Nintendo Direct, where I was walking away really liking it, and then I realized that
I loved it.
Really didn't like this Presents. I was feeling a little bit of an outlier for liking.
Do you feel like most people didn't like it?
Yes.
You shared that with me, and I felt a lot of positivity too.
I was getting ripped apart in a group chat. Maybe it's the people I associate with. I was getting ripped apart for liking things about it.
Interesting.
To go over it, it started off the first half of it. The first 10 minutes of this 20-minute presentation was a montage that worked through the entire series. I don't think they missed a single thing. They went through the games, the anime, the merchandise. I really liked it, but I don't think they should have dedicated half of the presentation.
It was literally half the presentation.
It literally was. I think we went into this thinking there's going to be 20 minutes of Pokemon content, and there was 10 minutes of announcements. But I liked the montage. I thought it was very cool.
I like it. Yeah.
It was very nostalgic and reminded me of, I think they hit everything.
They didn't miss a single thing. I didn't know over half of the stuff, to be honest with you. Yeah. When they were talking about card readers, microphone, I don't know, like all these extra gadgets I just did not know about whatsoever. Were some of them like Japanese exclusive?
Probably.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. There was one that it was like online play a generation before we actually had online play in the game, where you put a USB dongle in your PC and then you could do online. It was like, what? I did not know this.
I liked it a lot. I just, I wasn't expecting half of the presentation to be that.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Instead, we got 4 announcements in the second half, and I thought they were all quite good.
Yep.
They showed us more of new Pokemon Snap, which I personally didn't think that we were going to be getting another trailer for that, which showed off the Lentil region. They showed the jungle, the desert, and underwater areas. They showed off some more items that you can use in the game. Like you can make Pokemon glow with the Lumina orbs, which was not an item in the first game. It makes... for better pictures, it gets more points. You can show your photos online along with the scores that you got for it. You can also decorate it with stickers and filters and frames and fancy things like that I assume you unlock. So there is that online component we were wondering about with sharing your photos. You can get them featured on the hub world for the online or whatever. That was
excited?
Pretty much on Snap. I'm excited. I still...
You still hesitate on it. That's interesting.
Yes.
I have really high hopes for this game. I waited 22 years for a new Pokemon Snap game, and
do you think you're working into a shoot that maybe you just need to lower the expectations a little? It is just Pokemon Snap.
I have high expectations, Donnie.
Well, what's this high expectation? What are you imagining at this point? What they need to do in order to really get you?
I don't know. They only showed like 6 worlds, and there were only 6 in the original. So I was kind of hoping maybe it would be more ambitious and like more levels and areas that you could go to. And I feel like they all kind of look very similar. Like besides the desert, like they all really looked like it would just.
The desert was supposed to be in the first one and got scrapped, right?
I don't know.
So that's kind of like a nod back to the old one, I think.
Maybe, but I think times are bigger and more ambitious now. Like we shouldn't be having the same number of areas that were in the N64 game.
That's true, but it could be the case that they have 6 worlds, but there's 5 different branching paths in that world, so you can really kind of find secrets, dive in deeper into the cave of the forest or whatever, or the.
Then I'll be very happy with it. I think I really like about Pokemon Snap all the secrets to discover and the ability of it. So if we have that, I'll be satisfied.
What if so? The replayability of the first one came from the apple and the whatever other things you throw out. If they just added 20 different things you can interact Pokemon with, is that enough? Is it enough to just add things to?
Yeah, if they had 20, because I think there were what were the items in the first one? The apple, the pester ball, and the flute were flute. 3. I think that was it. So yeah, more ways to interact with the Pokemon could be a good way to get around the lack of areas, I guess, because maybe you would have more Pokemon coming out in those areas.
Just more combinations of things that you can do.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
If it's okay. Because that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a lot of the same levels. Like I said, 5 different branching paths. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, but realistically speaking.
Well, day and night cycles, so maybe you could go on a course like that would kind of double effectively the courses if you could play each one during the day and at night, and maybe different Pokemon come out and it's kind of different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys have any other thoughts on that?
I think it looks great. I really do. The more I saw it, the first time I saw it, I was like, man, this looks really, it almost, I think you remember, Rebecca, the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know if the game's going to look like that, because it looks like an animation. It looks like the Pokemon movies. It looks really like high quality, cool art, Garrett. It's got
very cool art. But I probably won't get it.
I'm digging the way that it looks, and that hurts.
You know me though. You know my memories with Pokemon Snap. I am not going to pay $60 for this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fair, and I know a lot of people feel that way because of the short playtime and everything. But it's so funny because, like Rebecca, I love Pokemon Snap. So to me, the playtime is irrelevant. Right. It was a short game the first time, and I totally rented that game for Blockbuster a bunch. And I plan on,
Ooh, I might rent it from the library. I'll do that.
That would be a good one to rent.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you'll be able to beat it very quickly. You can beat the original in one sitting.
What do you guys think about the photos, and having a leaderboard or a place to check where you can see where all the high-ranking photos? Does that maybe lessen some of the discovery, or does it make it easier? How do you kind of look at something like that?
Ooh, I didn't think about it that way. To lessen the discovery. Wow.
Part of my thing with the original Pokemon Snap is I sat down and figured out all of that stuff. Yeah. Knowing that there's just a leaderboard, here's my 15,000 point photo that you can go recreate. I'm like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see that. Because the fun is finding it. Yeah. If you show it to me, that kind of ruins all of the fun of Snap for me.
I think it's more of an end game thing then. If you got all the photos that you kind of want, and then
or that you thought you could get, and then you go and check. Yeah.
I also don't really see the point in it. You're just trying to get. It's kind of like it's almost another social media thing. You're trying to get people to like and see your photo.
Yeah, it's just like a leaderboard.
I mean, that's going to just get maxed out, I think, with the max points.
Oh, in a day, Kyle the Plug will have beaten it 19 times and have a full binder of every great photo. Within a day, we'll know everything there is to know.
He'll take a picture of every shiny. All the Pokemon will be shiny.
Oh, will there be shiny Pokemon in it?
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
That was my first thought when you made them glow, was that you could make them shiny, get better points for the photos and stuff.
Nervous about that.
That sounds like a guide's nightmare.
Yeah.
I don't.
No joke.
Keep the shinies out of this one. Oh no,
I don't think
that's scary.
Tend to be shinies in side games, are there? Mostly.
I don't think so. Unless it's everyone sees this one character that's a shiny, and I don't think so.
It was like a red Gyarados.
Right.
Which I kind of want that to be it now. Now that you said that, that would be really cool.
That would be a nice throwback, I think.
It'd be cool as as you were talking about like a night and day cycle, as things change in the environment. If you got different things like that, I think that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. I want different forms too. Wouldn't that be cool? Day and night cycle, different Alolan forms or stuff like that. I don't know.
I think there will be a Alolan.
I saw Alolan Raichu surfing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Raichu is surfing. I love
My
that.
Alolan Marowak on. It's gonna be fun.
Who?
I'm ecstatic. I jumped out of my seat when it was announced, and like my excitement level has not wavered one bit. I can't believe this game is happening.
I'm happy for you guys.
I'm not happy for Rebecca. I'm scared. I'm terrified. We're gonna come to Shaq and she's like,
She'll
"Let me
enjoy
tell you
it.
how bad this game is."
You'll enjoy it.
Let me tell you why you're wrong for like.
Right. Just have like a video for like snapping it over a leg or something. Like, I'm just no.
I know that I'll enjoy it no matter what, but I will be lying if I didn't say I had high expectations for it. I do have I think I'm optimistic about it because it's Bandai making it. I think they'll do a good job with it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Anything else about Snap?
Can't wait.
I'm going to make one more comment. I think going back to the photo thing.
Yeah.
I think back in the day it was a little difficult you could print out your photos, you could share them that way. But
I forgot all about that.
Isn't that such a cool thing from history that you could just take your cartridge, plop it into a Blockbuster, case, whatever, and print it out? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
People have those, have bought those on auctions or whatever. They've got them set up in their home.
Pokemon Company. They're just sitting there, like at their dry erase board, like these people will do anything. They'll do anything.
Partner with Walgreens and let us print our photos again.
Walgreens employees gonna be like, "What is this? Just put it in the slot, dang it!"
All right. Anything else, Michael? Where are you gonna?
Oh, well, I'll just finish the thought that
Yeah.
I think social media is going to be a huge part of this. You were talking about the discovery aspect of it. I would say probably stay off Twitter and all that for the first couple of days or until you feel you're satisfied. Because I think sharing photos, they've put a huge push on that on the Switch compared to past consoles like the Wii U and whatever the 3DS could push out, barely. So I think you're going to see a big push to try to share that kind of stuff. People are going to be spoiling stuff all over the place. Yeah. So I just expect a lot of photo-based feed. That sounds dumb coming from a Pokemon Snap game, but like actual sharing social media.
I think that's the thing is with the photo, with it having the score on the photo, it makes it different. Right? Because if you just showed me your Tyranitar, I'd be like, "Oh, that's cool." Like there's the photo. But with you showing the pose and it glowing and the score, then I'll know if I take my photo and it's not good enough. It's like, "Oh, I didn't do it." Or, it's that part of it. It's the score more than the photo. Like I just don't like the idea of here are all the photos you need to take to get the highest score. I don't like that. I don't want to know that at all.
Well, I don't think necessarily, because in some of the examples that we saw, I don't think you necessarily have to display your score on it when you're sharing it. I imagine that you'll be able to save a lot of the pictures that you take to your Switch camera roll or whatever it's called, the screenshots, and then you can post it to social media from there. So I think you'll be able to post pictures and just kind of have it be like the aesthetic of it. Like, look at this really artsy.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My thing was just like the score, because that's a game. Like that is the replayability of the game. If you just throw all that out there and you see it all, then it lessens that. And to your point, then Rebecca, then it's like, well, I don't want to play it 3 times because I've already seen it. Like that's the thing. Like, that's the fun part of the game is what happens if I play the Pokefoot when I pass the Pikachu that fell over? Who knows? I gotta play the whole level again to find out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense for sure. We got a few announcements about Pokemon Go. They're having some anniversary events. You'll be able to get Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, and Mewtwo. They're appearing in raid battles all week. It will continue, it says, until... Wait, is that March 1st? Is that over?
I copied and pasted this out of blog. It's probably wrong.
I hope you got your legendaries. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, there's going to be special max raid battles featuring Gigantamax Pikachu. That's also over. I hope you got it. Pokemon Masters, you can get the Galar region champion Leon and his Charizard. You still have until the 17th of March to get that one. And then if I hope you already got your cafe mix, log on to receive 2,500 golden acorns. Does anybody play that?
Does anyone play Pokemon Masters? I have never heard any Pokemon fan play.
Well,
that
don't
game.
say that, Michael. Over at
Michael,
Hold on it. I actually haven't ever tried.
Oh, okay.
It.
I was just trying to make fun of
Pokemon
mobile games, and he ruined it.
No. I see some people on my timeline play Masters. I don't see anybody play Cafe Mix.
Oh, okay.
It was a kind of a neat little game for a weekend.
Yeah.
Did a little swirl.
But yeah, I like all these games, even though they're a little bit older in some cases, they're still getting new content for the people that are still playing them.
It's probably a lot of people playing it, so yeah.
Pokemon Quest 2, you cowards. Pokemon Quest 2.
Didn't get any updates there.
Let's get to the real news.
Okay, the real news. This is one that I was getting ripped apart for liking.
Right.
Really?
So let's get to this.
Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. We all knew it was coming eventually.
You can't say this without laughing.
Sinnoh remake is confirmed, and it is not part of the Let's Go series. It kind of fooled me at first because it looked like it was going
to. It looks like it, doesn't it?
But it doesn't have the same catching mechanics. It's our traditional, what we would expect from a main series Pokemon game. It's developed by ILCA.
Yeah. I love computer art.
Weird.
So
that's what that stands for.
That's weird.
Interesting that we're getting a main series Pokemon game that's not developed by Game Freak. I think this is the first time, right, that this has happened.
They're a port studio and like a support studio. They worked on Yakuza, Nier, Dragon Quest XI, a bunch of other games.
Oh, good for them.
Mm-hmm.
I see you have no other notes on this, so I will just be the first one to say that I really liked the art style a lot, and that is what I was getting ripped apart for. Personally, I really appreciate that it's true to the original style.
It is.
3D form.
Yes.
People don't like the chibi, and I understand that, but I think it's pretty hypocritical that people are saying, I really want a return to form and a return to the original style, and then poop all over this. So
I'm going to back you up as I did in our private chat, and as I did as it was live, and I was tweeting the nostalgic feeling that I got when I saw this game. I prefer the way this game looks so much more than Sword and Shield. I do not want them to make it look like Sword and Shield. I think this looks great. I love the little chibi look. I think it looks super cute, and I was all for it. So I was actually taken aback when Rebecca was like, everybody hates it, because I was like, this is amazing.
I think you guys are generally right.
You can
generally right.
Please rip us apart if you disagree.
No, I don't know, because I saw the art style and I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, but that's just kind of me in general with all announcements. I always just see something, I say, okay, that's how it is, and then it slowly like sinks in what it is. Mm-hmm. And I've been going back and forth on it, if I actually like it and if I don't. Like from top down, everything looks like just as it should be, but then you turn the camera just a little bit and it's like what did you get stepped on? Like what's going on? This looks a little weird. I don't know. And you're right that it does. It does look pretty close to what the original games.
It's very true to it. Yeah,
we're going with
what they were going for, because I've heard for so long people ask for this, so I'm very surprised that.
Exactly what I was saying.
Now people aren't, and they do look. I think it looks very cutesy. It doesn't look very mature at all. And I think what some valid criticism for it is, from what I've heard, and this is a Pokemon game that I've never beat before, the story and characters I think are a little bit more mature than most other Pokemon games. I know like the storyline with Cynthia and things like that, I think it gets pretty deep. So I think people are imagining those scenes in the cutesy chibi art style, and it is kind of very juxtaposed in a bizarre way.
But I mean, the original game just looked like the old Pokemon game, so it's not like it used to be that and they've changed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you put the sprite next to the model, it does look good.
It looks great, yeah.
So it might be like a good replica, but that doesn't necessarily mean it still looks good when you upgrade it, I guess.
Probably not what people imagined it would be.
Right. And you know what? I'm like I said, I'm going back and forth. Like tomorrow I might think it's the best thing the series has ever done. Probably not, but you never know with me. The weird thing is that when you see the battles, then it like switches to, okay, we're back to normal, everyone. This is all good.
Yeah.
And now we're going back to, someone stomped on me. That whole thing. It's
I do think the
I was just thinking of the Resident Evil Village memes.
oh,
Stop it! Stop! The battle Michael, you mentioned the battle artwork. I think that looked very good, and I think that's probably more of what people were imagining for this remake.
right.
Looks kind of like a good mix between the Let's Go style and the Sword and Shield like proportions, I guess you would say. I think most of the game you're battling, you're going to be seeing that for most of the game anyway. So I appreciate that they made it look like that in the battle scenes instead of the chibi look.
Well, I think the only reason it's like that is because they're not going to go through all the Pokemon.
Yeah,
and, like,
exactly.
Yeah,
They're not going to recreate all these Pokemon sprites or whatever.
I wish they did.
When
I'm here for it.
When I first saw this trailer and see the chibi version, it just reminded I actually got nostalgic for these games, and I'm like,
yes.
I kind of miss this. Like, I kind of miss this art style. And when you go into a Pokemon battle in there, it's just the 2D pixel sprite. It's kind of the same thing here, only it's just now it's 3D. And so I'm totally into this. I got swooned by it. The art style doesn't bother me as much, but I hear you, Michael. There's a lot of people that kind of expected this game to be similar to the Sword and Shield graphics. And I completely understand that, because that's what they always did with the remakes, with Alpha Ruby or is it Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and also, the Gold and Silver remakes. Every time they do that, it's geared towards the kind of the graphics at the time.
Present gen engine, yeah.
Yeah, the present, exactly. So,
I think for me, I think you're spot on, but for me, I really appreciate that they stepped out of that.
Yeah,
because I think this makes this game more unique. I think it makes it stand out more. And for me, as somebody who didn't like Sword and Shield as much, it makes me so much more excited to play this one than if it was the same. Right? If it was the same thing, then I'd be like, I guess.
Didn't everybody complain about the graphics and art style for Sword and Shield?
I kind of did, especially once we got it and started playing it. I did.
So why do people want that for the remakes then?
I think it's less about the graphics, but more like we're in a 3D space now, and you can like turn the camera and you can do all this.
Yeah. That I appreciate.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like that's what I was expecting, and that's not what we're getting. And I think that's fine. I think those are two separate games. I'm not asking like, please make another remake too to satisfy those needs.
Sure.
But I do think that there's something nice about sticking to something that is close to the original, top down. No, like I can't see what's behind this house still. I think
the top down part is what's got me.
Yeah, me
really,
too.
Once they started walking through the town and everything, I was like,
I got swooned, man.
I'm totally in. Yeah, I got really excited.
I prefer the top down than the 3D,
Classic
which I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. So I think maybe the thing is it's when they imagine a remake, it probably shouldn't be that close to it, because why wouldn't you just play the original then? But to me, I'm looking at it as you're getting all of the updated mechanics that weren't in Gen 4.
It's still a remade game.
Remade part of it. I think it's interesting that we're probably not going to get like the Dynamax thing, because when we got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we got the Mega Evolutions that were involved in Gen 6, but we didn't see any sign of the Dynamax. What do you think about that, Michael?
Okay, so this is where all my thoughts are really at.
Let's hear it.
Go for it.
The thing that scares me the most. So shortly after, I think it was a day after, I was pretty positive on the remakes, pretty happy with what I saw, and then somebody told me or corrected me, because I thought that Game Freak was developing the remakes and the other game that's coming up soon was being developed by somebody else. And when somebody told me that was not the case, that's when I got really scared, because when in the past Game Freak has remade the previous 3 generations, and they took liberties to include, like you were saying, all like the Mega Evolutions and whatever else. And now that it's being handed off to somebody else, I think it's going to be much more of a restrictive project. It's going to stay very, very faithful. And I don't think we're going to get these quality of life things that the series really needs Like
I think
HMs,
we'll get-
TMs, like those are probably going to stick, and that kind of sucks.
They mentioned in the PR release that it's going to have like some of the things that modern. They didn't detail what they were, but they did mention, it's a new game remade with the modern improvements that you've come to expect as a Pokemon player. So I think we'll have the majority of it. I don't think, we're not going to have Gigantamax battles and raid areas and things like that. But I think the trade system and things like that, I think will be there. But I agree with you. I think that's why it's simpler. I think the reason why it's simpler is because it's being made by another company. It's like a standalone port.
And
Are we considering this to be Generation 8? Like part of, because I feel like with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, like we were considering that to be Generation 6. It looks just like X and Y. With Fire Red and Leaf Green, we called it Generation 3 because it looks just like Ruby and Sapphire. That's
where I get off. I don't really care.
I mean, okay. It might not.
No, I mean Michael may care a lot. I don't care what game fits in what gen. I just want to play the game.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a little bit important because the remakes in the past, they did bring in some newer Pokemon.
They did, yeah.
Into the mix, and I don't think that's happening here.
Oh.
Not really at all, actually.
So it's kind of, I don't know. The whole thing is just a little, and it's not just quality of life updates. It's also like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Number one, what a ridiculous name. Number two, they had like a whole extra chapter at the end with some new.
It was kind of weird.
And
The Delta episode.
I appreciated that there was this extra push for brand new content.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen here at all. And I'm just really scared that a lot of the issues. Okay, I'm going to say something potentially controversial.
Say
Go
it.
for it.
Do it.
The Link's Awakening remake.
No, we understand.
No, I'm with you. I'm Team Michael.
We understand.
I don't know about that.
Mike.
I mean, the more when I started playing it, nostalgia. It looks great. I'm back in this world. This is awesome. And just the more and more I played, the worse it got. And I just wish it would end so I could stop. So I could keep some love for this game. The problem is that they took a game from 1993 and brought it over and polished it up, made it look really nice, but they kept all the problems. All like the fast travel weirdness and just the way the dungeons are laid out. And I hope that that's not going to happen for Pokemon. And I think because it's with another company, I think it will.
That's a good concern.
They're going to stay faithful to the original Pokemon Diamond and Pearl by having it take 5 minutes to save.
I'm totally down with that. Let me rub my gyms till they're shining and pearly. I absolutely love that. And the mining stuff. You remember the mining stuff in this game? You had to go in and you like tap the little screen on the DS and make sure your gyms are all shiny. That was the novelty of this game, is that. And hopefully they bring that back.
I own Pearl, but I've only played like the first 2 or 3 gyms. Should I play it before the remake?
Yes.
Will I be burned out on that generation before?
Probably.
Then don't. Yeah.
Garrett said yes.
I love Diamond and Pearl. It's probably my second favorite.
People said it's very slow paced.
It is slow paced.
I think maybe what Michael said, they probably will not change the quality of life things by fixing the pacing.
Mm-hmm.
They might be afraid to deviate from the original.
Yeah. It's not them. It's not theirs. I mean, they're under direction of the Pokemon Company, obviously.
The Platinum content. Hobie was talking about Platinum. I saw somebody say that there's a character that they saw in the trailer who's only in Platinum. Do you think we're going to get all the Platinum content? Because we historically don't get the 3rd version content in the remake.
I was going to say, didn't they say that it was included?
They didn't say it.
I don't think they say the Platinum content, but it's interesting because Platinum, that version between Diamond and Pearl, it's actually, the story's pretty different and they add a lot more elements to it versus the 3rd gen games. So I would hope they would add more of the Platinum story content and get Giratina, because he's pretty pivotal actually in the story itself. I hope we get that for sure.
I'm doing a quick dive because I know that I read something I think that alluded to it.
I think
eagle-eyed players have gone through Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl trailer to notice that a particular NPC that you only speak to in Platinum has been spotted.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. I thought in the PR release, I thought they mentioned platinum, that like it was gonna platinum stuff was gonna be included. Okay. Maybe I'm just thinking of it. I remember. I feel like I remember it vividly. I remember reading that at some point, but I'm excited, guys. I really like this. I wasn't expecting to be excited for this. You remember I was saying like I wanted coming off Sword and Shield. I wanted Let's Go, Michael. I was like, I don't want Sword and Shield again. That's what I didn't want. I was like, I'm pretty sure what I don't want, and I didn't get that. So I'm really happy.
The sense of scale of the towns and routes have been carefully preserved, and fans who played the original games will recognize many familiar places. They only mention Diamond and Pearl. They never say Platinum anywhere.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So why don't we get to the coup de grace, if you will?
Yeah. Maybe this probably softened the blow for anybody who didn't like what they saw with the remakes, because this, I think, is still returning to the world of Sinnoh. We got Pokemon Legends Arceus. Am I saying that right? Is it Arceus?
It's Arceus, yes. You're correct.
Okay.
Are people messing with you with that?
I don't know. I heard Arceus.
Jack says Arceus, but I don't know.
It's Arceus. People.
It was
I agree.
With the desire to deliver an experience infused with new action and RPG elements that go beyond the framework established thus far, while honoring the core gameplay of past Pokemon titles. To catch wild Pokemon, players can study the Pokemon's behaviors, sneak up on them, then throw Pokeballs. Players can also battle wild Pokemon with their ally Pokemon. By throwing the Pokeball, holding their ally Pokemon near a wild Pokemon, players will seamlessly enter battle. This new gameplay angle is intended to provide trainers with an immersive experience. You'll begin your journey with either Cyndaquil, Rowlet, or Oshawott, and it is coming out, they say, early 2022. So this is kind of like an origin story.
They say.
No. Yeah, they say.
They say.
Don't get attached.
All right. First reactions. Open world Pokemon game, guys.
I feel like this is also what people have been asking for.
We did it, guys. We're done.
For a decade. A decade easy, if not longer. Yeah, this has been a thing for a while. Mm-hmm. Jack lost his mind. My little Pokemon trainer lost his mind. And I started trying to point out like the issues that I had, like with the obvious issues that were in the trailer, and Jack wasn't having any of it. He was having none of it. He didn't want to see it. He didn't want to hear it.
There's going to be issues. There's going to be things we don't like. We'll talk about that. But I think this is very experimental and something that they're like practicing with to implement into a new game. I think they're taking the wild area that they worked on with Sword and Shield. They're taking it, they're expanding upon it, and they're saying, what can we do? What can we push? What works? What doesn't work before they put this into Generation 9?
I haven't seen the trailer since last week, but brush my memory here. Like when they seamlessly show you entering battle, do the Pokemon like auto battle? Like, are they just kind of there fighting while you stare at them? Are you actually commanding your Pokemon? And
I think there is moves. Yeah, okay. It's turn based once you get into the battle.
Still have your 4 moves.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm totally excited for this. I think we've been asking for this for a very, very long time. This open world. I think ever since I saw Skyrim, I was like, I want Pokemon in an open world setting just like this. And I think Game Freak is making this leap right now. It's like, yeah, we're gonna try this out. I really like how unique the setting is. We've never seen a Pokemon game being in like this classical ancient times before. I love the premise of this game where you're filling out the Sinnoh Pokedex, and it makes sense that your starters are different as well. So I'm really excited about that. But for sure, I'm gonna get it. And for sure, it's going to relate to Arceus, which I think a lot of people know. It's the god Pokemon, the Pokemon that has made all the Pokemon, and have some sort of relation in the storylines. I'm still cautiously optimistic how open this is going to be. What kind of environments are we talking about? Not just these open land Breath of the Wild trees, but what else does it have in store for us? And also... Well, with the Switch Pro, I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be better. But the performance in that trailer, it was harder to look at than most, I think.
It was atrocious.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Yeah, because I mean, my first impression was like, that looks rough. Real rough.
Yeah.
Some of the animations were like
it's pixelated
back and forth, like
it's teeter tottering.
It's like stop motion animation. Obviously, it looks really, really rough, but at the same time, it's early. I don't for 1 second think it's coming out early 2022.
Yeah,
that game is a long way away from production.
Could look very different on the Switch Pro.
Yeah,
it could, but
I hope it doesn't look like that on the Switch regular. That's a scarier premise to go down.
Before we talk about the bad things, I want to keep talking about some of the possibilities of this game. I think I am hoping there's a little bit more to it than just you're filling out the Pokedex and collecting it. I think that there needs to be a lot of exploration in this. There needs to be a lot to do. I think it needs to be more than what the wild area is in Sword and Shield. Otherwise, I'm bored very quickly. I think people who aren't into the collecting aspect of Pokemon will get bored very quickly because there don't seem to be any we didn't see any other trainer
battles. Didn't show anything like that.
Other villages.
So my thing was, I was thinking is like I want like to discover some mystery and stuff like while I'm going out there, like learning more about the world and kind of building out as above and beyond, just like catching the Pokemon. Like, you know, like you've got this base, right, that you're building up. Like, are there people there? Are you collecting things for them? Like, what is that doing? Like more of kind of this society that you're in addition to the Pokemon. Was actually where I was thinking more than like wild trainer battles. I wasn't even really kind of there because I was thinking everything was wild, so I didn't expect that out in the wild area we'd come across people.
What do you think, Michael?
No, I think Rebecca, you said experimental. That's how you see this game, and I think that's exactly what I see. It's one big experiment. I think if it's going to come out in early 2022, then we're in big trouble. But I don't think that's the case. I think this is going to get pushed back, and I think with the right amount of work and the right amount of focus on Rebecca, you were saying again, like more trainers, more than hey, there's a Pokemon, let's catch it. Let's fill out this dex. I think this is right now. They're showing us, hey, this exists. Please be excited for it, and keep watching for updates as this game starts to improve and look more like a real game.
It was like the elevator pitch, open world Pokemon game. It wasn't like a slice of the game, you know. So like your motivations as a character and your purpose for being there wasn't explicitly there, and that's going to come in time. Yeah,
I think that they I just lost my thought. It just went away. People are going to be looking at this and saying open world, and they're going to make sure that they don't want like a big empty open world, because I think that's people's thought when they hear open world is they think, well, what is there to do here? And it did seem a little bit empty looking at the trailer.
It was very barren.
I think this was what you said, Donnie, an elevator pitch. I mean, their estimate for when it's going to release is still a whole calendar year away. So there's a lot of time to work on this. And you're right. It probably won't even meet that.
An open world game development, like, all right, so everybody called it Pokemon Breath of the Wild, and it's very fair. Like, there's obvious, you know,
from a scenery perspective,
Easter eggs and things that they're doing. So those types of games take a long time to make. A year is not a lot of time in a big open world game. You know, even like a Dragon Quest or a Breath of the Wild or something like a Skyrim, like a year goes by extremely fast. So based on what they showed me and thinking that it's an open world game, even if it's like a hub open world where you like, you know, load screen into an area and like can walk around it and then load screen into the next area, they're still a bit of ways off from what they showed. Now, maybe what they showed is old. You know, maybe what they showed is from
That's what I was
last
thinking
year.
As well. Yeah.
But yeah, the idea that it is out early 22, I think is far-fetched. Unless they have a big support studio helping them that we don't know about.
I want to know more about the like premise of it. We saw the art of the old Pokeball style. And I've been writing about this for Twin all week. My immediate thought is if we don't have trainers to battle that we could see of any sort, we're not earning any money. This is kind of like ancient or like medieval Pokemon world, Sinnoh. are we going to be crafting these Pokeballs? Do HMs and DMs exist yet? Are we going to be kind of going?
That's where I was going kind of with the town, like your camp. Like you have to be collecting and like upgrading and like opening up shops and completing trade quests and things like that.
Collecting materials, even like crafting these things. Maybe you make a raft or something to go across.
Or get like certain trade quests that you get if you go to another town or something like that. Like there's got to be something else to this besides what they showed.
Definitely more interactivity. I remember actually reading kind of like an old lore, like kind of guidebook or whatever. And I remember the Professor Ash or an Oak or whatever used to be a trainer in Kanto, and they were catching Pokemon with acorns. And so I don't know if it's going to be more like this acorn nut-like thing that we're going to have to craft, these Pokeballs out of. I would love a lot more interactivity with NPCs as well. I feel like in every Pokemon game, an NPC is nothing to me. It's just a wall of text that I'm kind of reading, and of course they'll have something to say related to that person, but it's just like giving you an HM, giving you a TM or an item, nothing really of substance. So maybe if they have more substance with NPCs, I would definitely love that.
And that's the detail that these open world games take a long time to design.
Exactly.
Michael, what else do you want to see in it?
I mean, I don't know. I am excited that it wasn't a Generation 9 announcement. I think this is a cool thing that they're trying to do. It looks promising. Like we've said many times, it needs work. But no, imagine this being a really cool thing, a success. And then whenever Generation 9 does eventually come out, how exciting will that be? What will they take from this and move there? And
the first thing
that look like?
First thing I posted in the Discord when I saw this while it was live was, once you lift the veil on something like this, it's going to be real hard to go back. Yeah. If this hits in a major way, watch out, because it could change the franchise for a long way. Because it'd be really hard for people to be like, yeah, I want to go back to that over-the-shoulder, like old RPG, like when I have this open world thing. And I'm a little hesitant I think the people, when you open yourself up for Breath of the Wild comparisons, I'm almost thinking like you're almost setting yourself up for failure from the start. Like I'm real concerned by them going and kind of soliciting that comparison, because they did it in their own trailer. Like the camera shots there, and like
no
they
joke.
are explicitly going for that. And it's like, guys, you are setting an expectation that, like, I just hope you are aware of the expectation that you're leading people to expect, because that's going to come back the other way if you don't meet that expectation. You're talking about critically one of the best received games of all time, and something that we ourselves have talked about often is jam-packed full of systems and things to do and all. Like it kind of set a new standard for that type of game. So when you open yourself up to that comparison, it's like, oh boy, what if it is a very simpler Pokemon concept little open area game? It's like, that is not going to make people are not going to be happy.
It's not going to land as much.
Yeah. So I'm a little concerned just projecting like what it could be based off what they showed. I have a little hesitancy, but we'll see, I guess. This game needs a lot more development time.
Work.
It needs a lot more before we can really come away with any sort of judgments, I think.
We have to realize also Game Freak, I mean, they're known other than Pokemon to make experimental titles.
Yeah.
But they haven't exactly landed as much as
most of
Pokemon. And that's why they always go back to Pokemon and stick to that formula. So to see an experimental title with Pokemon, you're playing with fire when you're
Anybody play that Switch game from Game Freak?
Little Big Plant Town, but
yeah. No, it was rough.
Big Little Town or whatever.
Yeah, Big Little Town or something like that.
Wasn't that the name?
That one was rough.
Little Town Hero. There you go.
Yeah, Card Jockey was pretty good, but it's a card game, and it's just a simple little game on 3DS. So we haven't seen Game Freak doing something like this. So my expectation's not high right now with an open world game, but I'm glad they're taking their first step out. I want to see more.
That I agree with 100%. They make so much money. We talked about the Sword and Shield. They just rake in so much money with Pokemon. It's like, why don't you have a lot more animations in the battle scenes? And like, why don't you show like a level of polish that I think Pokemon fans deserve? They obviously support the franchise enough that you could afford to do so. I think this is kind of a nod in that direction. It's like, all right, let's step out of our comfort zone and let's actually try to reach for that brass ring and do something really, really cool. So I wish them the best. And look, I said this to Rebecca in our little DM throughout the week. Jack is so excited. Like between the Nintendo Direct and this, he's been walking around all week. Mike, I'm sorry. Jack is my 10-year-old son, and he's my Pokemon trainer and everything. And he's walking around the house, and he's like, Dad, listen to me. They're going to have Zelda ports, new Pokemon remakes, Breath of the Wild 2, Splatoon 3, open world Pokemon. What's PlayStation going to do for that? Like, he's projecting it out, like in console wars in his head, like 3 years in advance. He's like, this is like the greatest year ever for video games, Dad. Like, he is so over the moon, largely off of this game. Like, he pops
this kid
so hard. I mean, yeah. Keep telling.
I love it.
Chip off the old block, right? How excited he is. He's talking about like how can people compete.
That's the best part.
What's Xbox gonna do, Dad? So very, very excited. Before we get into chat questions, I did want to take just a brief couple minutes here. Are you guys watching Playing with Power, the Nintendo story? Remember I mentioned this documentary about a month ago?
Yeah, I remember that, but
it's out this week over on Crackle. I've been following it, which is why I mentioned it, I think about a month ago on the podcast. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm learning so much stuff that I didn't know, which is really weird because last week, like some of the video game blogs that I follow started releasing reviews for it, and they really trashed it, kind of. Like they really hate it. They don't like it at all. And some of the common feedback that I saw from it was that it's a lot of like old information and things like that, which I'm sure it is if you know everything there is about Nintendo. I don't. And I am learning all kinds of stuff. Like Nintendo tried to be a rice company and they tried to do like news broadcasting, and they had Nintendo love hotels in Japan for a period.
They did have love hotels.
You know, it was like stuff like that. It's honestly, so this is a new thing that's been going around like the last decade, where we got King of Kong, there's a PlayStation 1 indie game, the movie, like we get these documentaries. Mm-hmm. This is the definitive like video game documentary told through a Nintendo lens, but it's not just Nintendo. There are extreme deep dives on the rise and prominence of PlayStation, on Xbox entering the market, and it's all told like how these events impacted Nintendo. And it's a really great documentary in the sense that they don't hold punches. They really show Nintendo, and it's like its best and its worst. I didn't realize back in the arcade days how many games Nintendo just ripped off from other people.
Yeah,
I wasn't alive in the early 80s and stuff. Like I didn't know that. But they literally just copied people's games and resold them. The same game. I didn't know that at all. And they go through like all the legal battles and all the things they do. A few takeaways that I do have, just to give some of my own review. I thought they were really dismissive of the N64 generation. And I think it's just my personal thing, because to me that console is really special. And they really kind of treat it like it was like a blunder. And I think it's just because of the success of the PlayStation 2. And they just trashed the Wii U. Boy, if you're a Wii U fan, do not, like, they just destroyed it for about 17 minutes. So there is that, but it's a really, really deep dive on the architecture and the stories and everything. I didn't, so like, obviously I know who Miyamoto is, and I know that, you know, he created these games. I didn't know that he created Donkey Kong just because like he was making art for the arcade cabinets. Mm-hmm. And all of their developers were busy, so they were like, hey, make a game. And he just makes Donkey Kong and saves the company. Like, what the hell? What a Hail Mary attempt is this? Like, your artist? It's just like the dude that's drawing on the side of the cabinet. You're like, hey, make a video game. And he just makes Donkey Kong, saves the whole company. It's really, it's 5 episodes. It's about 5 hours.
On Netflix?
It's on Crackle.
What is that?
And Crackle's free.
This is what you said to me when I brought it the first time. You said, what's Crackle?
Of course,
Crackle's an app that you can download. You don't have to sign up for an account. It is free.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you from watching. You put it on your Roku. You can watch it on your computer. I'm sorry?
There's lots of ads then.
There are ads. Like every 5-10 minutes, there's a little ad break that you've got to go through.
Crackle.
One of the things that I did see that people didn't like about it is they called it a little long in the tooth, and I would agree with that. They really do kind of really dive into some stuff, and they have like these really cool long moments where they show you like these collector items or these prototypes or like these drawings of systems and things like that. And I think that's awesome. Like I like that stuff. There were so many things that I didn't even know existed, like the Duck Hunt light gun, right? Was like that all came from like this wild Western light gun game that they made on like this arcade machine from this stuff I'd never seen before. So that's for me, cool. I was digging it. I did reach out to the director on Twitter asking if they're going to make a box copy. I was like, hey, can I like buy this for my shelf one day? And he wrote really long, like 140 characters, maybe, with like an emoji. So maybe it's going to come out. You can actually purchase it. But I can't recommend it enough. We've had a really fun time all week long kind of watching it. And it's a really great way of reminiscing. So much of like this documentary stuff, like with Console Wars and High Score on Netflix and things like that, has really focused on Nintendo and Sega, right? They do that, and there is like 30 minutes where they do that, but they spend so much more time on everything else. Just like the ingenuity of like the Wii and the 64. And it really, I think, Rebecca, the one thing you'll love is they really hit home from the beginning of the company, like Hanafuda, from the 1920s or whatever, until the Switch. They really hammer home like how Nintendo uses existing technology and things we already have, and they put a Nintendo spin on it with their IP and their stuff, and they sell it. You know, like the Game & Watches coming from calculators and stuff like that. They really take a deep dive on that stuff and like kind of where these ideas come from and how Nintendo spends it. And there's a lot of interviews with former employees and things like that. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think you should.
I'll for sure check that out.
Rebecca, let's get at least the first two questions.
Oh, okay. Soundscape wants to know, man, the Switch anniversary is coming. Well, the Switch anniversary was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
4 years. Do you guys get the feels when you think about your experience at launch? Has the nostalgia feeling hit yet? Michael, what was your experience?
I don't know if I'd say nostalgia just yet, but what a day. What a great day.
Do you remember everything about that day?
I remember the pain and then the excitement, because I ordered off Amazon and you're just waiting, and it can come at 8 in the morning. It can show up at 3 in the afternoon. You just don't know. It's not telling you. You're reading online how people, it's been delayed a week. My Amazon order, it's not coming today. And it did. It did show up on day one. Actually, I think around 2-3 o'clock. And I think I just played Zelda until like maybe some food breaks, a bathroom break here and there. But
did you sleep?
Like 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I did stop.
Michael, did you get any other games on release day except for Breath of the Wild?
Nope. I didn't care at all. I had one game to play, and that didn't bother me at all.
Nice. I mean, it's a perfect launch game. Yeah, I do get the feels. I feel like it's insane that it's been 4 years. Like, that has flown by. I feel like it was just could have been last year, really. I think, it's undeniable now how well the Switch has done and the massive library of games that it has now. I think a lot of us were very nervous when it came out that it was just another Wii U thing again. I think I was more confident about it, but you never know. So I do get the feels.
I got the feels yesterday because I started digging into old photos from then.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen in years. And I was posting photos of me and my kids playing, of Jack playing. And here's the thing about kids. You talk about feeling nostalgic. 4 years is a lifetime for a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. You're talking about my kids were 10 and 6 versus 10 and 14 now. Jack looked like a little kid and sounded like one too. And Victoria was like just this little, like middle schooler, like just thing. And now she's like full blown teenager woman. It's just like, she's all into TikTok and Vines, and you're not cool anymore. Like, she wasn't that. She was super cute. And I've got all these videos and things that are like just stuck in time. And I shared this one picture. I have this one picture of Jack playing Zelda Breath of the Wild the day we got it at night, just sitting in front of the TV with his amiibo. He has just amiibo all around him sitting on the floor, and he's just playing it. And he loved that game, and he played that game for 2 years, like basically once we got it. Took him a really long time to beat it, but like that game and the Switch launch really kicked off his love affair with Zelda and Nintendo overall. I think for him, Switch is his system in the ways that we think of like our first system, like a Super Nintendo or a 64. Like for him, the Switch is that system. It's a system that he got first day and played the first thing, and like grew up with, has come to know games with the system in hand. So I do get the feels crazy. That was the time I met Caroline. I drove 90 minutes to get it in the middle of the night, 90 minutes back, stayed up all night long playing. Man, PSVG didn't start, maybe a year and a half earlier than that. we were doing the NX and everything leading up to the Switch launches. We covered the launch. That was its own thing. So I definitely get the feels.
I have a little story with the Switch. So I did get it not on day one. I got it like later in March. Initially what I was doing, like in the beginning, like when I knew the Switch was coming, it seemed too good to be true in my eyes, because I only had the 3DS. I didn't get a Wii U, and so I wasn't a home console guy, but this looked too good to be true to me. I promised myself, I was like, okay, I'm not going to get any new games because I have so many games already and in the backlog and everything. And then I see people playing Breath of the Wild, and then I see games going out and like coming out for the Switch and seeing on handheld and on screen. I'm like, I need to get this. Where is the next available Switch at GameStop? And I actually made a bet with my friend that I was going to not buy any games, but then I just bought the Switch, and then I broke my bet. And so I had to pay him $60 along with paying for a Switch. I was totally fine with. And I played the mess out of Breath of the Wild. And then I also got like some early games. I'm thinking I got was it Isaac? The Binding of Isaac is another one I got physically. And then I actually bought really early Thumper, which is a great rhythm game. I
didn't like that one.
You didn't like that one as much? I think it's really cool. It's really in depth. But yeah, I can't believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
It still Switch feels new to me still. Isn't that weird? Do you guys feel that too? Like, it's not old.
Do you think that's because of the other consoles and how Nintendo kind of messed up the whole schedule here?
Maybe.
I think it's a good point. Yeah, because I mean, they just launched. So this entire time of the Switch, it felt like the Switch kind of had its own space for a couple years where it was the new thing until now. Mm-hmm. And here we are. They're about to release a new thing. So they'll kind of refresh and keep it going. Soundscape, one of the things he brought up in the chat that I didn't put down here is coming off the Wii U, how he felt, because I absolutely agreed with him. The Wii U is so starved for content that I was just like hawking Nintendo life for like the next great indie game that I could play on the console, because you just felt like you just didn't have enough, right? You're like, you get like a game or two a month, and the Switch has so many thousands of games that come out every week. It's a night and day difference. He asked us like our most surprise and disappointing games from that first year. So I didn't look it up, so I don't remember all the years, but I feel pretty close. Graceful Explosion Machine.
Yeah, that's
was the
another
first year, right?
Yeah, that was the first year. That was very early.
It's like a twin sticks, not quite twin sticks, but like a twin stick shooter.
Was it Goner? Was right next to it. I remember seeing that in Goner.
Graceful Explosion Machine was a lot of fun, because at first, like, the launch lineup was super light, so like some of these indies that were coming out early got a lot of spotlight on them. I remember
shined really bright.
Nobody brought up Snipper Clips.
Snipper Clips,
like Mr. Shifty. Obviously, 1-2 Switch, which sells still for like a really high price. Golf Story in year one.
I was
think so?
in year one. Yeah,
Stardew Valley was year one.
Yeah.
Good, and that's a good one.
And on the big miss, my biggest miss is Snake Pass. I absolutely hate that game, and the entire internet like adored that game the day it came out, and everybody was talking about how great it was. And they had like, I remember Greg Miller was on stream talking about it. He was playing. He was like, "It's amazing." I was like, "I'm gonna have to get this game." Got it. No, did not like Snake Pass at all. Was so upset that I bought into the hype. Should have waited. That and Super Bomberman.
Oh, I got that and returned it. I never returned games.
Didn't touch those.
It was not good. That was back when we were doing reviews. I think I gave Super Bomberman like a 40.
Wow.
I was like, this is not good. But it didn't matter because you just had Breath of the Wild. And that's really all that mattered. Was ARMS year one?
ARMS was year one?
Dude.
Okay.
It came out before Splatoon.
ARMS was pretty cool. I played ARMS for a good 3 weeks before it started to taper off. But I actually
Mario Kart came out shortly after launch.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Mario Kart, of course.
Yeah,
and Odyssey by the end of the year too. Actually,
yeah, yep.
Huh? That's a pretty good first year.
It's an incredible year.
Rocket League.
That's the part of my issues. And you guys should have saw me earlier when I was watching this documentary. They were killing the Wii U. They just went on and on about the name, and you guys have heard me before, and I was just like, it wasn't the name! They're so stupid! It was the lineup. Like, the difference between the Wii U and the Switch is that the Wii U didn't launch with Breath of the Wild, have a Mario game and all this for like 18 months. They didn't have software, right? They launched a new Super Mario Bros. U and that was it.
Yeah, I remember
like
that.
late year 2. You know, it's like software matters. And I think throughout Nintendo's history, that's proven. People will buy Nintendo hardware if it launches with a game that they want to play. That's necessary. You can't just launch something out of the gate with nothing, or you've got to make up ground. They made up ground with the 3DS. They didn't make up ground with the Wii U.
I didn't get a Wii U at launch. I got it for Christmas like the next year, and to be quite honest, I didn't even want it right away. I was waiting for the new Zelda, which
they had that demo and everything. Like, yeah, could you imagine? I'm not saying it would be what the Switch is. The Switch by itself, the concept is great. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But if the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild, totally different story. It's a completely different story.
Mm-hmm. Wait, is this Soundscape's second question?
Oh, just, yeah. Do you have any other surprises or disappointments in your year one?
Disappointments?
I can't be negative all the time, but I will say I think my first Joy-Con drift issue started in the first year. So
really,
wow,
yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah,
it's not good stuff. No good.
I think the Bomberman was the only one that I returned. Did you want to go through any of these milestones that you wrote down?
Oh yeah, we can. So year to date, Switch has sold 79.87 million units. Total software over 532 million copies of games. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe over 33 million. Animal Crossing New Horizons over 31 million. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate almost 23 million. Zelda Breath of the Wild over 20 million copies sold, 21 and almost a half million copies. That is insane territory for a Zelda game. Like, that is a lot of copies for a Zelda game. Like, we all love Zelda, especially like the Shack Trio here. We are Zelda fans. But even we acknowledge that, like, Zelda's not Mario Kart. Like, in terms of the sales, there was a big differentiator there. For a Zelda game to go over 20 million plus copies, that is a big deal. Very, very, very big deal. And it keeps trugging along.
Yeah.
Makes sense why we're getting a sequel.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good spot for the questions. I think the rest of them are not very relevant to what we were talking about.
No, I agree. So with that, we're going to say goodbye to Michael. Thank you so much for jumping on this episode, man, and breaking down the Pokemon stuff. We loved having you. But yeah, one more time, let people know where they can find you, where they can follow your stuff, all that jazz.
Sure. So I have this really funky username that I use everywhere. It's Super Zambezi. ZAMBEZI with super at the start. So that's on Twitter and Twitch. I do a lot of Twitch streaming now. I do it 3 times out of the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Highlights include world modeling, 3D creating levels for Banjo-Kazooie. It's kind of cool.
Interesting.
You got to find something interesting to do. And a whole bunch of other stuff. I won't spend time on it. But I stream on Twitch. I would love to see some people there from here. That'd be great. But thank you for having me here. This was a lot of fun. Glad to have a place to talk about Pokemon again. And man, podcasts are so cool. This is great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you very much.
We try to keep it lighthearted and fun, and we jab and tease and make fun of each other. We want everybody to have a good time while you're listening. We want it to be as fun to listen to the show as it is while we record it. So thank you very, very much, and we'll have to have you back. We'll have to have you back again.
Bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye. Oh, I'm in the top right now. Okay.
There we go. We've been moved.
I've been moved.
So we're going to move to the last segment of our show. Those of you subscribe to the Shack feed, you've already heard me kind of put something out earlier this week, but I only thought it fitting that we at least address it on one of our show proper and allow our co-hosts to talk about it. But as you might remember, for the last couple of months, we've been promoting a Gaming for Guru campaign. We've been talking about Bobby and COVID, and he's been in the hospital for a very, very long time, over 120 days. And we found out earlier this week that he unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty hard. We had to. I don't really know. I have zero notes for this moment. I just wanted to bring it up. So, let me kick it off the best way that I know how. We found out over the weekend, and it really sucked because not that it shouldn't have, but like we couldn't talk about it. And one of the reasons why I recorded what I did is, and if you guys didn't listen to it, it's out on the Shack feed. I released an episode of the last podcast that Bobby and I recorded one-on-one together. My relationship with Bobby was digital. I met Bobby through this medium of podcasting and streaming and like this love of Nintendo. It's how I met Bobby. And I know some of our folks have had the opportunity to meet him, Garrett, Kevin, like you guys have got to meet him in real life. I didn't have that opportunity. So it felt weird to me. And this is what I meant. I think if you listen to it, I was saying like how it's different for me than losing like a family member or like my parents or anything like that. Because my relationship with Bobby was completely digital, and it felt really, really weird to have to like sit on something without being able to talk to people about it. You know, because like so many of us know Bobby through Twitch or through Discord or through a podcast or through a website. Like you don't, like it's not like I didn't want to go to work with Bobby every day. It was that was our relationship. Our relationship was digital. So then to hear about it and then to have to sit on it and hold it, that put me in a space that I had not been in previously. And I had to do something. Like that's why when I kept saying like I felt the need to podcast, I just felt the urge to, it's like I can't tweet about it. I can't talk to anybody about it unless it's like privately. And I was talking to Sean and Jason extensively over the weekend, but that was difficult. And then you just fast forward a couple of days after the family, were able to put their alerts out, notices, and then just the public outpouring of affection and memories that was on Twitter. It was, I was talking to Mark Carabin about it, in so many ways that was worse. It was like worse, but better, like it was amazing that we all had this together and we could finally like kind of communicate with each other and talk to each other. And I felt like I was, like grieving and healing, with other people. You could finally feel it for the first time. Cause like when it was a secret, like it didn't feel real.
It didn't hit me as much until it got really let out in public and people were talking stories about him.
It's like a whole new Band-Aid was ripped off and you just kind of go through the whole thing again. And the digital thing was something that I don't think I'll forget about, because like there's a reason that we have funerals and there's a reason why we kind of go through the motions and the processes that we do. And it's weird when you don't have that opportunity, when you get close to somebody and it's like, because of your relationship, because of this thing that we have, the internet, like you don't have that opportunity. So it just kind of puts you in a different space. So I thought it would behoove us in all respects, because I mean, we've all podcasted with Bobby. We've all been on his shows. He's been on our show. He's been on Shack a bunch. To just give a minute to talk about him. Talk about whatever you want about him. I don't care. Like it's really your favorite moments, things you liked about him. It's really up to you, but like we should, at least acknowledge what happened and at least talk about it. Like Sean posted a screenshot of a DM that he had from Bobby.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because at that moment when I first saw it, I didn't even think to check my DMs and relive any of that.
I went back to my DMs with him.
Me too. Yeah.
It didn't even dawn on me to try. And then when I did, I started sending Sean all these screenshots of all this shit that Bobby used to talk. Like we used to talk shit constantly. And it really made me smile, like in a really big way. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I did this. And me and Sean were just kind of sharing like some private stuff in that regard. And that made it feel a little bit better.
The first time I ever had a conversation with Bobby was after one of Sean's streams, where he was showing us a video of him in the car.
I know what you're talking about.
So excited about this Mewtwo or something that he caught in Pokemon Go. And like, it's just the way that he's telling this story is so funny, right? And there's this one moment where Bobby he like turns around and he looks at the camera and goes, "Got him." And it was
got him.
So Sean's like, we need to make a GIF of this moment. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go make a GIF of this moment. And I made it. And I sent it to Bobby. And that's kind of the first time that we connected, me and him. And he just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And that's kind of how we got talking and how he invited me onto his show. But just hearing all of the, and I didn't know him that well either. I just kind of met him at the end of last year. And, those last couple months, I wish that I had more time to get to know him. But listening and reading to all of the stories that people had and how much he's touched their lives, just to me speaks volumes about who he was.
Yeah. I've met Sean and Bobby probably almost the very beginning, 2016, when they started meeting together and started doing If We Ran Nintendo, and Sean was doing We the Gamercast. That was the start of me and being more involved in the indie podcast scene. And so every time I see Bobby, he was so ecstatic, full of energy. He was joking all the time, but it felt like you were part of his family now, right? This podcast group of family. It was
super indie podcast group.
Yeah, super indie podcast group for sure. They also, did was it Make It Better? They started that podcast group as well. I remember. That's when I heard PSVG. Actually,
most people found us, I think, through that.
And then every time I just hear him in podcasts and everything, he was just a ray of sunshine a lot of the times. He was a very kind guy. And yeah, I met him through I met him in real life at Extra Life with Sean for the first time. And it felt like when we were all together, we were all lost friends, like best friends, just getting together. It was me, it was Sean, Bobby, and then also Jams Gams was in there, Matt, Knight, all these guys coming in, and we just had a good time together, just like a full 24 hours.
Bobby always seemed to make everything a good time. I don't think anybody
bad bit. Yeah,
I don't think anybody had a bad time around Bobby, especially if you were either podcasting or streaming with him, or if you were in the same room. It was just a very, very jovial, fun-loving type of guy, man.
It makes you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's the kind of energy with Bobby. Just making you feel like you're an important person.
One of the crazy things about this is that I've brought it up a bunch as I've podcasted for so many years now. I mentioned earlier is we have so much of this stuff recorded in stone. And you're talking about Switch memories. I met Bobby around the launch of the Switch, and me podcasting about NX and doing Nintendo Shack and stuff. I think as all Nintendo influencers do, you start to run across the same people or the same listeners and things. You start getting plugged, and Bobby started doing that, and Bobby was on our Zelda review cast, and I was on with Bobby, and I did 3 Zelda things with Bobby in the first month it came out. We really connected. It's a crazy way that games can bring people together. And then one thing I didn't mention earlier was at one point Bobby went through a divorce.
Yes.
And I found that out through Jason, who used to be a co-host, and I went through a divorce. And I think Bobby and I connected that in a way. I'll never forget the night that we recorded an episode with Colin, and we launched all of our Switch stuff. The next day, I jumped on a DM with Bobby, and he was first he was talking to me about Colin. And he was like, man, this is so cool you got to do this and stuff, because him and Colin are friends. By the way, for our listeners that know it, they're I let Colin know what was happening. He was a huge supporter of the Gaming for Guru event. He gave us so many codes and everything. I was the first thing I was going to think about, because I wanted to make sure that he was included. And, he was just oh, this is so cool. I'm glad you got to do it. And then we started talking, about the divorce and everything. And I felt at that moment we kind of connected on a different level. And, Sean's in our chat, and I'm pretty sure Sean remembers, I think I was on the phone with Bobby until 4 a.m. that day.
Wow.
We sat on the call for 6 hours. Just at one point we were playing games, and another point we were talking about divorce, and then we were talking about Colin and Imogen for him and all the things he was doing as a community manager and all that stuff. And it was like a really, I think, kind of a turning point. Because I give Sean and Bobby a lot of credit for where PSVG eventually got to. You know, you guys are newcomers, but you mentioned like Make Us Better. I never liked Patreon before that. And actually, like when me and Bobby first met each other, we got into like a fight, like a digital online fight with me and him and Sean, because they were pushing the Patreon thing super hard. And I was like super against Patreon because like these podcasts I used to listen to started a Patreon, and I got locked out of this podcast I'd listened to for 6 years. And I was like, ugh, stupid podcast, you just do it for free. And I remember arguing with them about it, and they were the ones that really warmed me up to it. They were the ones that like showed me the other side of it. They're like, yeah, man, but it's not about that. And like they schooled me on it in all seriousness. Like that's ultimately what it is. They opened my eyes to it. They're like, you don't have to lock it behind a paywall. You don't have to do this anymore. You know, like you can do this and this, and like joining Make Us Better and filling out the thank you notes and everything. It was a complete 360 for me. And then like years down the line, like it just kept building on top of that. And I often think that, like with boys, like you're never really quite friends until you like beat each other up. Yeah. Like your best friends are the ones, like I kind of felt that way because, man, I loved talking shit with Bobby. And I love, like, he is so Jersey all the time.
He's very Jersey.
And it's so, you know how like me and Dev are? Where we will constantly rag each other, but it's completely out of love.
Yeah.
Bobby and I had that same thing. We could just make fun of each other constantly all the time, and we knew it was just in the best of love and the best spirits. And man, it's just it's hard, right? It's sudden, and it came after like that really nice update and everything. And he was a big part of our Podern family, our community. You know, I know so many of our listeners listen to If We Ran Nintendo and vice versa, and we always cross-promoted and promoted each other's stuff. And it's a thing that I know Sean and I constantly keep up. It's not about, oh, Sean wants to come join us. It's not about competition. We're not competing with each other, right? Like it's not, their show or our show. It's like we're all in this together, and we always kind of push that. And I think through Bobby and Sean, I think it's like very, very evident with PSVG just how much of that stuff we've done. And like I said, both of you guys have been on his show, and you were on it before you joined. You're on it now. Rebecca, for example, just to bring you back in here, I absolutely love the show that you did with him.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Our show started with a technical glitch. He was so like apologetic to me. It was like not even a big deal, but like just like reassuring me that I was doing great, and like just the way he made you feel,
He always put his community first. Yeah. You saw it in his streams. You saw him in his youth. He was a workaholic on his content. I watched his stream. The streams were so good.
I always prop up the dude was a machine.
Yeah.
Just talking about streaming like 6 days a week, like 4 podcasts, videos. His production was always excellent.
One person doing this.
Dude, and trust me, and man, I think it was that same night after the Colin thing where we stayed up all night talking to each other. Mm-hmm. I remember telling him, I was like, dude, I did all of the video production for this, and like at the time I just rolled up the Shack intro, and I was like, I don't fucking see how you did it. I've been doing this for 12 hours nonstop for this 20 seconds of video. It was like the last thing I wanted to do anymore. It was like, I never want to do this again. It's gotten to the point now, it's like, I want to pay somebody to do this. I can't do this, but he did it all, man. And it was really, really great. I really enjoyed Rebecca when you went on the show, and I was glad that you guys got to do that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Caroline. Caroline was on Breaking Bells and Nintendo Talk several times. Like she and him and I actually think they had a really great rapport on their own. Like I think those two could have done their own podcast at any point that they wanted to as well. Because in a lot of ways, one of the things that I got out of that I was missing, Rebecca, you might remember, is that he kept telling me that he was going to have me on Breaking Bells to give me all the shit about not playing Animal Crossing. And I never got the opportunity to go do that. Like, he was like, I can't believe you say these things. Like, he used to always send me this. I'd send Sean some of these things. Anytime I was on a podcast where he didn't like either believe in what I was saying or what a guest was saying, he'd always send me this shit in my DMs. He'd be like, I can't believe you're saying that and all that. And I was thinking I was going to have this comeuppance, this Animal Crossing comeuppance one day where he was going to, take me to task for everything that I said about Animal Crossing. And
where'd Sean go?
He just left me off the hook.
What?
The mic wasn't connected, I think.
Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
I don't want to keep talking.
I know. I know you can go on and on. I think I've said what I said, man. He was a very passionate dude with what he was doing. Very kind to me. Every time he had an interaction with me, he was so kind and joking too. Like, he always making sure you're part of something. For sure. I loved listening to his content and his rambling with Sean.
saying nice things about Rebecca. I'll say nice things about you too, Garrett. It was very instrumental in me wanting you to join the show. I mentioned I reached out to Sean and reached out to Bobby. He was like, man, what about Garrett? Because I knew you ran in the same circles. I told you that last time we were talking about this. I was like, man, what about Garrett? Garrett should be on a podcast. What do you think? And that's what I learned about your environmental thing. I learned about from Pat.
The paper towels.
Listen here, Donnie. Just start trashing the place, all right? Just start throwing shit out the yard like you drive them nuts.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, guys.
Sean.
This is amazing, guys. I've just been like sitting here listening. I'm like, oh, dang it. This is good. This is really good. I'm so glad you guys are doing this right now. Thanks for sending me the link, man.
Join us, man. Absolutely.
It's hard. It's hard, man.
How you doing?
Well, I thought I was doing okay until you guys are saying all these nice things. And
it's like, I told you we got into a fight.
I know. Somehow you're right, man. You hit the nail on the head. Like, sometimes that's what we need to do. Just like have a bit of a fist fight. But we have, like, you and I, we've, like I was kind of saying in the chat, like we've been through some just like petty garbage, but we pushed through because I think we have such an appreciation for each other. And that's what Bobby was all about as well. I was just, I'm doing the thing. I'm watching videos of us and watching streams of him and doing stuff like that and thinking like, okay, I'm getting through this. Okay. And then I jump in a stupid Nintendo Shack and getting it all back again. But Bobby always hated it because I would always tell him that my favorite Nintendo podcast is Nintendo Shack. He hated that. And he's like, you're on a Nintendo podcast. I'm like, this one's better than hey, man. I would always tell Kara that too. Like, this is the best one. This is the good one. But still, man, it's surreal. It's all of the things. Like, I don't feel like, part of the reason I feel like I've been taking some time to just, reflect and stay quiet and think about stuff and everything else is like, everybody else is doing a way better job about talking about this than I ever could. And I just am so glad that
I love your humbleness, but I don't believe that.
Yeah, I disagree with that completely. You're doing better than anybody.
I think in so many ways we're doing it because you're not.
You're holding everybody together, Sean. You're the thread.
We all just kind of want to hear from you.
Yeah,
we just want I'll make sure you're okay.
I know.
Yeah.
You know what? Can I tell you guys something? I got a really nice call today from Luke Lore. I haven't talked to Luke in a long time. Yeah. He called me up, and it's like he did that thing, and I don't want to put anybody on an uncomfortable spot, but he did the thing. Everybody will say when this sort of thing happens, they'll say, "I'm here for you, whatever you need."
Yeah.
And he just did it. Like, I don't even remember giving him my phone number, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how he tracked that down. It's some weird internet thing that he did, I think. But Luke and I chatted for half an hour today.
Cool.
And he was like, I just want to make sure you're not going through this alone. And I don't feel like that at all. Not even a little bit. I feel like it's so full circle because Bobby brought everybody together so that we could be together to support each other in his passing. And it's like, that's the craziest thing, that we are together because of him. Yeah. And thankfully we're here together for each other. Like, it's so full circle. And I can't remember who was saying it. Like I said, so many people have said so many amazing things. Like everybody's saying the exact same thing. And I said it in my little write-up as well. Like, I was obviously very, very close to Bobby. I'm going to be thinking about him for the rest of my life. but everybody feels that way. Like everybody who thinks about Bobby is like, man, he made, you guys are just saying it, like he made me feel so special. He made me feel like if I just work hard, if I put my mind to it, if I try hard, I can do whatever I want. And that was, I'm so glad that I would tell him that. Part of me is like, I'm holding things back, but also my back is killing me. So it's taking my breath away a little bit here, you guys. So if you're hearing that, it's a little bit of back pain here too. But like I was going to shut down We the Gamercast. And I talk about this all the time. And I told him 100 times, and it got his head enormous with his New Jersey ego and everything. But I was going to shut down the show. Like I was 6 episodes in. I'm like, this is hard as hell. Nobody's listening. Nobody cares. And like, why would I do this? And I'm about to turn off We the Gamercast with him. I'm like, yeah, tell everybody where to find you and stuff, like as you do at the end of a podcast. And he does this thing, and he does this is an old story at this point, but he's like, everybody should get on this show. Podcasters should get on this show. I think he said, I pray you contact Sean and get on this podcast. And that moment, and I've heard him do it other times too ever since that, but that moment changed everything for me, man. And he has sparked that confidence and inspiration in countless people ever since. And it changed everything for me. It kept me doing We the Gamercast. I would never meet Dave Moore. I would never have started the Xbox Drive. I would never have met Luke Lore. I never would have went to E3. I never would have went to the Coalition. There are so many things that happened because Bobby believed in me. And I was just so lucky to have met him a couple of times. And the guy would have opened his house to any of you guys. He would have he let me stay in his house while he was at work. Yeah. Like, I could have done anything to that house. I should have stolen some stuff.
Yeah, I remember those tweets and those Discord messages. Those were so funny. You were just like sending pictures from like the kitchen table. You're like, well,
Sugar Daddy's gone to work. I'm just kind of sitting here looking at his Yankees pictures and baseball gloves nailed to the wall. But he was so like, dude, I could like, I'm like, I wasn't sure if I should jump on because I'm like, I'm not sure how much time you guys have because I could talk for
as much time as you
like
want, dude.
Literal hours. You know, and I've been chatting with his family.
Much,
yeah, well, you guys just like give me a whole hook, get me out of here.
We can do another episode if we have to. I'm here for it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, who knows, man. He was so generous, though, man. Like with everything, with his time, everybody. And this is nothing is unique that I'm saying. Everybody knows us, but
he should be able to do animations and video and stuff in OBS. I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I know that sounds like so dumb and small, like something you could do too, but like I didn't know how. And I won't say who, but like I remember I was reaching out for folks asking, and like a couple of people were just like non-answers. You know, like you're kind of
yeah.
The funny thing about this is there's like no guide to show you how to do this stuff, and like everybody does it, but like nobody shows you how, and it doesn't seem like everybody's like super helpful to teach you their tricks.
Not to walk you across the finish line.
Yeah,
right?
No. Bobby was like, I was like, Bobby, how do you do this? You got all these things, and he was like, yeah, jump on a call. And that was lit. He was like, yeah, let me show you my screen. And he literally walked me through it because I had never done it before. I was too dumb to figure it out. He's a big reason why we do live shows. He's a big reason why we're live.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, man. Like he was, and that's what you say he's a workhorse. Like you two are just insane. Like you podcast, you put in as much time, Donnie. You put in just as much time.
Not even. No. I'm going to be humble here. Not even close, dude.
Well, whatever.
When we were doing last year's like the March thing, when I was doing the house party and all that, I'm telling you, man, I was on the phone with him the next day. The next day, I was on that Discord call with you, and I was like, Bobby, how the hell do you do this shit? I just made 4 videos and 4 podcasts, and I'm exhausted. It's like, you do this every week.
Yeah. The best part is, you know, now when it was happening, we were making fun of him. It's like, oh, Bobby's got another podcast. He's got another podcast, another video series.
Do not call it a comeback.
It's like, that was Bobby though, man. Like he was always thinking, he always had a notepad next to him. He's always jotting things down and coming up with new ideas. And like, I'm so glad that he did that because like he just, and again, I've kind of written about this as well. He was always coming up with ideas. He was relentless and tireless. And he loved Nintendo to the point where I was frustrated with him many times. You know, the image and form stuff and all these things that we've argued about. But
I remember getting frustrated with you on those old shows. Like
and with me.
Yeah.
Getting frustrated with him or not giving him the gears.
I loved when we would have a direct or something, right? Like when there would be a big pop moment like with Splatoon 2 or something gets announced, I would always love that DM to pop in and be like, "Hey, you want a podcast?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" I said it earlier in my thing. Like, I'm sure you probably feel somewhat similar. I loved recording with Bobby because I always felt like I always feel like when I record, I'm going to bring it. If I got to sit there and read Reset Error for 10 hours to figure something out, that's what I'm going to try to do. I feel like Bobby was the same way. And when Bobby and I would record together, man, I was just always like, man, this is great. Because whether we agreed, it was like a super, bromance of fanboyism. Or if we disagreed, then it was like, we'll lock in because we're not going to give an inch to each other. And I really love that. And it was all out of love. It was never like, argumentative or anything like that. It's just very, very passionate about it. And I always enjoyed that quite a bit with Bobby.
He always knew that, man. I don't know how he had time for everything, for people and for the content and work. And he talked about his work ethic, though. Like, he had his eye on the prize, man, the entire time.
Yeah.
And probably some of this is 2020 was the year that he found tremendous success. He'd always been very successful.
Animal Crossing.
And he had his eye on it, man. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't like he was trying Animal Crossing and put up a video and then exploded. Like, that was his plan.
Genuine.
And that was the thing about him, though. He often had a plan, and when he set his mind to anything, he could do whatever he wanted. He's like, we'll just do a Patreon, and he set out the Patreon. He had a successful launch of the Patreon. He set out his video like he's going to become the Nintendo guru, for God's sake. Like, he wasn't even the Nintendo guru to start out. He was the geek guru, and he kind of changed that direction. Anytime that he just had a big idea, he killed it. He just killed it, man. So I'm going to miss him like crazy. I don't know if I've said this to Donnie or not, but a couple people have been reaching out, and I'm having this realization. It's like everybody has their best friend to go to for support because Bobby's gone. But he was my guy.
Yeah. I feel that. I get you.
And it's like, that's the hardest thing. Like, if Donnie were gone, I'd be going to Bobby. Like, I can't believe Donnie's gone.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hardest thing. And then there's content and everything else aside from that. It's like, he was my partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love everybody I've ever podcasted with. I love all those people. Like, it felt like cheating with Bobby. It felt like it wasn't even fair anymore. You just go to him with an idea and he could take that and blow it up to a better idea. And I was like, what is it, like cooking with gasoline? It's like, it wasn't even fair. Like, he's just so good at it. And he refused to do the cookie cutter thing. And as frustrating as that was, because you just want to go let's just have 4 guys around the horn and we can just do our thing. He just refused to do that, man. He wanted to do something different. If you're at Nintendo, what the hell even is that? But people knew him for it.
Yeah.
And it was a hard show to do. Like, it's you pick these topics and it's like you pick these things that are, you're going to fix Nintendo. Like, what the hell? What do we know? But we have so many good memories from that. And I'm so grateful that he was so stubborn in his Jersey way. But
you're going to keep going, Sean, and you're going to make him so proud.
I'm going to shut everything down. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know what's next. I don't know. But I'm just, in this moment, I'm just taking some time to let the waves kind of happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
And participate in what's happening right now. And everybody's just being so loving. And it's a reminder, like, we knew this from the Gaming for Guru thing. And there's just countless messages coming in from everybody. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, it's obviously horrible, but it's a beautiful thing that everybody's here for each other. I go in from you guys. I go, what just was at Lizabelle's stream, and she's talking about Bobby. I'm in Joe After Work stream, and he's talking about Bobby. I'm in Kato's stream, and she's talking about everybody. And it's like, I'm so glad he knew how many people cared about him. Like, there was no doubt.
You mentioned it on your thing, but our listeners may have not caught that. Why don't you tell folks?
This is the Married to the Games guys talked about this as well, because I had mentioned this. Call it what you want. I don't even know what to make of this, but I think Donnie and I had talked about it, and many people kind of assumed that after the Gaming for Guru was such a success, we couldn't wait to collectively get Bobby in front of a camera whatever it was going to be, a podcast or a stream or whatever it was, like get him on air and tell him about the weekend. So this would have had to happen after he recovered, after he went through therapy and everything, got back to normal. So that was the plan.
I was gonna say, and behind the scenes, it was kind of like it was a big motivator for a lot. I know we kept mentioning as we were coming up with ideas and we're coming up with ways to push and everything. We kept saying like, dude, when he comes back, because it was Bobby's way. Like you said earlier,
comeback.
He blew everything up. Like he made it a big deal. Like
comeback.
He was going to love it.
Can you imagine?
Like, we knew that this was just going to. He was just going to love it. Like, like we were just going to hit all of his expectations. It's like, don't call it a comeback. Let's show you what we did.
He had his Guru Directs, man. Like he had, who does that? Like Bobby does. He had all these people like submit videos, and that's when he would announce like his 14 different shows, and 13 would die off, and there'd be the one remaining. Like that's just what he did. And once he got out of ICU, like I don't know, like maybe it's just me thinking this. Like I thought obviously we knew he had a road in front of him.
But you thought it was.
But it was a road, like at least.
Yeah, exactly.
We thought there was a path. And to be honest with you guys, even as bad as things got, and I knew how bad they were, and that's a hard thing as well, just to, you have to be respectful of the family and everything. You don't publish everything. I knew how bad things were, but in my mind, there was no doubt that he was going to pull through. And I think that's probably one of the most devastating parts of getting the news last week was just like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not at all how this was supposed to go. So the Sunday before, I got a FaceTime, and I never get any FaceTimes, and I didn't recognize the number. I didn't pick it up at first, and I got another call immediately afterwards. I'm like, okay, I think I might know what this is. I pick up the phone, and I hear hospital noises, and I see somebody behind a mask, and it's his mom. He says, Bobby's here to say hi. And so I got to, I think we FaceTimed for maybe a little over a half an hour. He couldn't speak because he still had the ventilator in. So I had to try and read his lips, which I'm not very good at because I'm also used to him just like screaming at me. So yeah, the plan was to, sit him in front of a camera, tell him about Gaming for Guru. And then his mom blurts out after Bobby was saying, I thought people were going to forget about me. And his mom says, tell him about the weekend. And I remember just like mad at her. Like, this is not my moment for him. This is supposed to be like, we're supposed to sit him down and we're do this thing. And she's like, tell him about the weekend. I'm like, okay, like, what am I supposed to do now? I'll tell him. So I got to tell him about the Nintendo dads had this idea to dedicate a weekend just like Extra Life, and told him about PSVG and Joe After Work and Kato and Quest for Pixels and everybody else and Elizabeth, everybody who's involved, and the Xboxes that we were giving away and the Switches that we were giving away, people, pulling prizes from their personal collections and just doing whatever they could to raise as much money. And we did, got the GoFundMe up to $21,000. And I obviously don't know how screen record works on my phone because I was trying to record the FaceTime. Once his mom forced me to tell him about Gaming for Guru, I'm like, I got to at least record this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to try and record this. So I have the phone call recorded, but it's no audio. Apparently screen record doesn't grab the audio from the calls. But I have the moment from when I told him about Gaming for Guru, and he just had the single tear like rolling down his face, and he just says, "Oh wow." That hit him exactly where you think. He knew what that took and what everybody did for him. I don't know if he ever saw the GoFundMe page, but he knew how much money was raised for him. He knew what you guys did. He knew that you guys did a full day for him and that you pulled out all the stops for him, man. He knew. And I'm so glad that it's like, I don't know what you call that, but I'm glad that his mom forced me to do it because I wasn't going to tell him. And I was in the moment mad for ruining the surprise. But that was his 5th last day on this earth. And he got to know. And I'm so grateful for that in the end. Yeah. I'm so grateful. I hadn't talked to him the whole time. I'd been messaging his phone. Turns out his phone wasn't connected. I called him one time and just like didn't even work. But so he knew. And man, like I said, I could go on and on. I've looked back on old messages. His last 2 tweets are him supporting me and supporting Holly.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
And he he loved this community, man. He loved every single person. I watched him turn hecklers in the comment section into fans for life. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think I ever will see anything like it. People will come onto his channel and go like, "Who the hell do you think you are, guru? You think you're going to run Nintendo? Like, what do you know?" And he would talk to those people and their patrons years later. Like, most people would block those people. Most people would ignore it or argue. And he had a charm about him. He was instantly charming. Yet thanks for letting me gab on about him, man. But
Thank you.
he's
Sean.
special.
Hey, thank you for sharing.
He's special.
It's hard to, you can't transition off of Sean.
Well, now I'm just gonna throw out all my, and we didn't even get to play Animal Crossing together. Like, I'm just frustrated, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really, really great story, and I mean, for me personally, I'm really happy that you got that moment, because it's not necessarily that you know that our even efforts are even acknowledged. That's not it. Imagine if you didn't, and just having to know that like you did it and he never knew, like that would have been so much worse.
Honestly,
that's almost a blessing. The fact that it's like you still had that moment that you're right. He knew, you know, like even if it, you know, like everything else gone out the window, like he knew that he wasn't forgotten, that we were all rooting for him. We collectively rallied for him, and just him knowing that is very much, you know, it's just a very nice thing for at least for us to take away.
Mm-hmm.
The heartache is so real. It's not even funny. But this sounds kind of cliche, but like I have zero regrets. And I started the letter with this as well. Like, it's not like he passed and it's like, I wish I told him how much I loved him. I told him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, he knew there's nothing left unsaid, because we talked for so many hours, but there's nothing left that we could have done. We accomplished anything that we could have imagined. We got to meet multiple times. We raised thousands of dollars for charity. We connected so many people together. We did what friends do, man. Like, so I'm heartbroken that he's gone, but there's nothing. I feel like he was on this earth to bring people together, and he brought so many people together. He showed people how to do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
He gave them the path. He gave them the tools. He literally gave capture cards to people. He gave away Switches to people. He was so generous, and he didn't leave anything behind, man. Like, he did what he was here to do. I would like for him to do more, but he did everything. He did absolutely everything, man.
I mean, he was like, in so many ways, he already broke through, like whatever that glass ceiling is, we feel like, for creators, you know?
Right.
But even if you didn't think he did, like, he totally would have. Because I brought it up many, many times for all the jokes and everything we give him about it. Like, the dude's grind was unstoppable.
Yeah.
He loved the grind in a way that I never have. And I never let him forget that. I was like, dude, you do you, man. Whatever I can do to help. But I am not doing that. It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah, he was unstoppable.
He was. Very much so.
Thank you to everyone who's still watching and listening and keeping his legacy alive.
Yeah. Well, we'll never, ever forget him.
No. Like, that's not how this community works.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll always be around, even if we, you know, like, I mean, Sean, I know you were part of it. Rebecca and Garrett, you guys are newer, but like, we carded for Awada for like years. I'm fairly certain that this will not be the last time you've heard of Bobby.
Well, for once, he's taken a break from making some damn podcast and everything, so we can catch up on his content, for God's sakes. The dude has left a catalog.
Yeah.
That
You
is,
can watch all of it now.
honestly, and I can watch it in I can still watch it in 2 times speed, and it'll take me the rest of my life to get through everything. Guy was probably doing like 4 or 5 podcasts a week that were like hours and hours long. He would get off with me and then jump on with Holly, and if it wasn't me, then it would be, you know, the Geekcast before that, or Nintendo Talk, or Nintendo Talk Live every Friday with a guest. Like, he was a beast, man. So I'll join in everybody else to just leaving comments on old videos and jumping in live chats as if that's what's happening right then and there. But It's beautiful, man. Sorry, Donnie.
No, I was just gonna say the last one of the things that I didn't share, but for whatever reason it feels fitting now because I just want to back up and validate everything Sean's saying. One of the last things that we messaged to each other, he was asking me how to set up a camera, and I was working on the house party rig, and I was going through all the stuff that we were talking, and I said, "Hey man, I got a pod. I wish we could chat. Let's talk later." And he said, "Thanks, man. Absolutely. Have a good show. You're killing it." It's the last message that I have from Bobby. So, I mean, yeah, he was
about right.
That way.
That's about right.
And now, Cher, I'm not going to talk about it, but Sean, I've sent you several screenshots. I got a bunch more. We would talk shit constantly, and that's most of our stuff. But it always ended that way. It always ended like that. It's a nice thing.
And God, did he hate Kirby, man? Golly,
I remember. Oh man, I remember one day he was tweeting something about Kirby, and I sent him a picture of me and Kirby, my cat, and he was like, "Why in the hell would you name your cat that?" He's like, "This is such a terrible name." Yeah, like God. I love shooting the shit with him. That is something that I don't think I have with very many other people kind of in this space. Just have like that. Like I said, it's like Dev, like real brotherly, like shoot the shit like brothers and be fun about it type of experience.
The first time I got on a Skype call with him, I couldn't get off. Like back then I was too polite to tell him like I got other things I need to do too. But he would just he just yammered on the longest We the Gamer cast ever. And we just kept going, man. And like, what are the chances? That's the thing that I just keep thinking about, honestly, is like, we could have been going on our lives, never crossing paths.
Yeah.
And something brought us together. Like, those are the things that really start to get me. Where like, I could have not answered his tweet. He could never have found my podcast. I could have maybe never started podcasting. Like, the things that had to happen in order for us to be in the same virtual space are like the odds are astronomical. But because those two, just that moment happened, those things collided, our worlds collided.
And
it
look
changed
how interwoven
everything.
Both of you are now in so many other circles and so many other communities and stuff because of that moment. Like it's deep. And I remember
it changed everything.
I remember telling you about this weekend, like we knew it was going on. I posted a tweet that if you knew, like you knew what it was about, and me and Sean knew. We've seen other tweets and stuff like that, but it sucked that you had to sit there and not do it and not say it, like and to hold that moment because of that, because of how interwoven all of these communities, how just linked together they are because of you two.
Well, and this is hard to like describe, but I think you guys will understand. Like, nobody in my real life understands how heartbreaking this is. No, they go
100%.
Well, wasn't he in Jersey? Like, wasn't he your friend from New Jersey? It's like, yeah, but yeah, like you don't even want to continue the conversation anymore. Like, you don't like if you're there,
they won't get it.
They just don't get it. Like,
then they won't.
Chelsea's the only one who understands, and she is. I gotta say, like, if this is my first like being on the internet since this has all happened, like Chelsea is putting up the strongest front, dude. She was so close to him too, and she's letting me bawl my eyes out down here and have my time, and with my broken back and everything else that's going on. Like, and she's taking the kids out. She's holding the fort down. And she loved Bobby so much too, man. And she hasn't had time to have her moment and for her to grieve. And like, I'm so lucky to have her too. But it's just like,
no, you're one of like people wouldn't get it unless they do it, and that makes like that's exactly what I was talking about. It made this harder because that is what connected us together. Like, we know that. We know that feeling. We have that person. We have these other people. Like, nobody's understand my relationship with Garen, Rebecca, or Kevin and Devin. Like, you can't be that close to people you've never met, but like, you don't know.
Yeah.
We can be that close to people we've never met. In some ways, I'm much closer to these people that I've never met in real life than I am by most people that I see every day.
I was just watching an old If We Were on Nintendo, and it was after we met for the first time, and we were talking about that, how it wasn't weird when we met. How we're like, we know each other, we talk to each other more, and I was describing how I was about to be a best man at my best friend's wedding, and I'm like, I talked to Bobby more. We talked about that on the show. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was every week, multiple times per week. And it wasn't just the show. Like anybody who podcasts together, anybody who creates content together knows this, that it's not like you fire up a Discord call, you hit record, say goodbye, folks, bye-bye, and then you hang up the Discord. Like you hang out, man. And that's the best. That's the best part about all this. It's something that
and you
nobody
go through
really
the
talks
highs,
about.
you go through the lows, you go through the highs of like whatever the podcast is, and you geek out together. But at the same time, there are many, many times where you hit this room and you're not feeling it. And it's up to other people to lift you up and bring you along. And it's up to you to do that when those other people are not feeling it. Or maybe you need to fill in and things like that happens. I was not feeling Xbox last night. Like the last 4 or 5 days, I was not feeling it.
Yeah. I mean, they're having a pretty rough go right now, to be honest with you. Like, let's be fair. It's pretty dry in Xbox land.
Elaine got me out of that mood.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Last night. And that's why I was excited to record tonight. Because like she got, by the end of the time we turned that podcast off, I was like even telling her like right after, I was just like, thank you so much for being fun and kind of carrying me along. Because I was just kind of like mundane, feeling me. But that's a part of this. It's a part of this like relationship.
The coolest thing though is like, and as I sit next to the Forrest Minish, you get to have these moments that you never take for granted. Like I would often say like, I can't believe I get to podcast with the Nintendo Guru. And it sounds like I'm joking. It sounded like I would be joking at the time, but it's like, how many people would kill to podcast with Bobby? Mm-hmm. How many people would? A lot of people. And you guys are the same. How many, like I would kill to be on this podcast. Like it would be incredible to hang out with you guys every single week. We're lucky to be able to podcast with the groups and to create content with the groups that we do because there's so many people who listen and support, who do anything to be in our spots and to hang out with us. And I don't know if that might sound kind of weird, but I always felt very lucky being next to Bobby. And I always feel lucky podcasting with Ryan Turford and anybody who comes on any of our shows. Like we are so fortunate. And if we take that moment to be grateful for that, it makes it all the more better to just not take it for granted. Because one day it could all go away for whatever reason. You move on, somebody else moves on, somebody passes on. But if you are grateful while it's happening, I guarantee you when it is over, you'll look back on it so much better. Because that's where I'm at right now. And I never took it for granted with Bobby. We made any time work. It was 5 a.m. sometimes when we would record because that's just when you have to do it. And he'd bust my balls about being late or whatever it is. So I always people are sending me notices of Bobby being late for their shows. I love it, man. I absolutely love hearing about that. But we're lucky to do it, man. We're so lucky to have each other and to create special content and push ourselves in ways that we never would have imagined. Rebecca, I've been hearing you talk a lot about this as well. Like you just started streaming, you just started podcasting, and like, look at you. Like you're in a completely different place. And Donnie, the origins of PSVG are well documented, but look how it has completely changed you. And Garrett with his weird games.
Oh, hey. I'm just here with my weird games. I didn't change much.
It's special, man. It's really, really like there's it almost is comedic when we think about like how many people have how many podcasts. It's just that we're everywhere. But it's the thing. It's not the content. It's the friendships and the relationships that we have. That is just like
it really is
so special.
That's a really real statement to say because, I mean, yeah, anybody can. If you just look at it like, oh, they go through the news and stuff like that's not it. You're missing it.
Yeah, you're missing it.
You're experiencing like this hobby and this passion that you have, and you're enjoying it and living it with other people. Like you're geeking out with your friends. It's no different than like, if you were in 1992 and you're at the lunch table with your,
seriously,
5 best friends talking about the thing that happened. That's what we're doing. Just with all the power in the world that we live in, we're not relegated to that. And in a way, because of all this stuff, like we have a way to kind of keep that. We can still be kids. Like you don't have to grow up. You don't have to grow out of it because your friends can't come over every weekend anymore because you got kids and stuff. Like we don't have to do that because we all like I can spin this up and we can talk whenever we want.
That's literally what Bobby talked about when we first met. He talked a lot about that. He didn't want to grow old and out of touch and everything else. Like,
let it go because you can't enjoy it, because you can't have passion, because you have friends that do it. Like, yeah, that is what this is about. It's not about the news and the rumor. It's not about exactly what you're reading. Like, that's just what keeps you going as you're talking to your friends and hanging out.
We also were super well prepared for a pandemic, I have to say. Like, we had this lockdown. We got the cameras, we got the microphones. Like, we're good talking to screen for hours on end. Like, we were rock solid for 2020.
We were set. Yeah,
we were set, man.
I remember when that first started came out. Like, Caroline was like, "Bring it."
Yeah, same. Same. Yeah, I'm like, I like my desk here better, anyways.
Yeah. My computer here at home is better than the one you gave me at work, anyway.
Yeah,
losers.
Pretty much.
Not enough RGB.
Losers.
What is this garbage?
Yeah, man.
I get that all the time. Not to just terrible segue off this, but like when I do these daily calls with our public health directors and stuff, they're like, "Look at Donnie. He's got the mic thing and the speaker, and his webcam's better than everybody else." It's like, yeah,
catch up. Glad you noticed. Now you do it, because it's kind of hurt my ears and my eyeballs to talk to you guys all day.
You just entered the darkness. I was born in it. Like, it's been here. Like, what are you doing? Oh man, this has been fun. I thought it would. I definitely thought we at least had to do something. I didn't just let it go and move on.
Thanks for doing your show at the beginning of the week, man. I thought that was really special. I didn't get to mention that your guys' podcast together, and what you said at the intro of it. I'm sure a lot of people have listened to it, and I thought it was excellent. So thank you. I mentioned
to it like 18 times on the show, and I know I talked to you before. I was real scared actually putting that out, because like with my experiences of my parents and stuff, like people get really weird around like what they think is respectful or disrespectful.
Right.
In these moments. And I was like real scared. Like I was real afraid somebody's gonna be like, releasing a podcast today.
I was like, show me who that person is. Like, tell me who that is, because I'll go. I'm giving you the blessing, man. I was
getting a little. I was like, oh, this could be bad.
I'm so glad you did. I really am. That was awesome.
But yeah, that Sunday, I had to do something. It was either that or call Sean again. And when Sean called me, I was actually at the auto place, like dropping my car off to get fixed, the brakes. I had to and the guy was like, "Can I pay?" I was like, "No, I have to leave." And I like walked outside. We were on the phone for about 30 minutes. I was just like walking in circles in the parking lot and talking to Sean. And I just left him there. I just left my keys and my wallet, everything just left. I was like, I will deal with that later. Sean's called me. Because I didn't know, but like I knew. Yeah. Like Sean just called me. I was like, oh, yeah, this is something.
When I got a call from New Jersey, is the same thing. Like you just, and unfortunately, I've got a couple of those calls from friends of friends, and you just, I guess I don't know what it is. Sometimes you just know. Jason Lacey said the same thing. He's like, Sean's either calling with amazing news or absolutely terrible news. And that was the thing that I can't remember who I said it to, but like probably should call people more often with just like average. Like I just want Donnie, I want to call you, like tell you what the weather is like.
Hey man, I'm open. Let's.
I probably should. So it's not
Power
like
the moose. In Canada.
Yeah. I think they're okay. Even that would be too majestic for the call I'm trying to make. Like I just want like just a normal. It's Wednesday, it's Thursday, whatever. Just so that you don't freak out anytime that I give you a call. But I do want to, if I have a second, I want to thank like PSVG. You guys have been killing it for months and months and years, but especially this week, and for Rebecca and for Garrett and for everybody who's streaming. I'm so thankful to you guys for giving me a place to go. I said it in a tweet, and it doesn't quite capture like what I really mean, but like I haven't played a game. I haven't watched a movie. I try to put on movies. I try to play a game. It's just like, there's just no describing like that. It's not landing for me. And so I go to Twitch and I go to YouTube to watch old videos, and I hang out with friends. And that's like, so thank you. Because I feel a little selfish not doing that myself and providing that for other people. I will get to it, I promise you guys. But for now, I'm just really, really grateful that there's a place for me to go. So thank you guys for that.
I understand that feeling. It's what I was all Sunday. I was just watching old episodes. I told you that. Like I told you that day. It's just like I don't know what else to do. I'm in the same place. It's like I don't want to do anything else. That's all I really want to do is I just kind of want to sit in this for a minute.
And it sounds pouty to say, like it's like to describe it is not quite. I don't know. I don't have the words.
Yeah, pouty's not the right word, but yeah, I get.
Like, I don't want to play a game. It's not that. It's like I'm genuinely trying. I want to like I've got this time.
Sometimes you need to dwell on something to like process it. It takes time. Like you just need that time. Mm-hmm. It's not pouty. Like it's a part of the process. Like to me, like there's a reason right now that I'm not like in utter tears. And I mean that, and I don't mean that obviously not offensive to Rebecca or anything, like, but I would be if I didn't have my moment Sunday. But I had my moment Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, oh, big time. Yeah.
Monday when the news came out, I was a wreck. I didn't work or anything. I just kept retweeting and sharing as many things as I could, and I was a wreck. And now that I've done that, and that was the tweet that I made, is like it felt so cathartic and peaceful to finally feel that and talk to other people. I was, private messages with Marty, private messages with Mark, private messages with Jason, like to feel it, to process it.
Everybody processes it differently and at different times.
And like I said, we don't have a funeral. Like I'm not going to the funeral. Like when my parents died, there's a reason you go to the funeral and listen to the songs and meet your family and eat food and stuff together, is that communal thing helps you process and move beyond that. Like Monday was that. For me, like it felt like that for me. It felt like it. Yeah, I can finally deal with this in a way that like I couldn't that weekend. That's why Sunday, I mentioned the podcast, but dude, I was a mess, Sean. I was cleaning everything and reorganizing and rewiring, and I washed my lawnmower. Like I was doing stuff. Exactly. I was just like, I have to do something. Like I can't. That's what it was, and I was just listening to my headphones all day for like 17 hours, just old podcasts, and just working around the house because I couldn't do anything else.
I remember when you broke the news, Donnie, in our Discord Sunday, I was actually driving back home from the grocery store, and I just saw that message, and then I instantly broke down in tears when I heard the news. And my girlfriend next to me is like, "What happens?" Like a very dear friend just passed away, and it took some time to process after that. And then Monday when you released the podcast too with him, that I was at work and listening to it, I was like, this is really good. I want to make sure that I remember his personality, his legacy, and so I really want to go like in a deep down into his content again, because it was very special. It was very unique for sure.
And he did it. I mean, that's the thing that I will always remember, that he did it. Dude had the whole setup with the lights, and
everything,
and the Twitch,
the lights,
and the emotes.
The lights were amazing.
Like he did it. Like he really did it. In so many ways, everybody wants to do what he did. He did it.
And I think in a way that he was never ashamed of what he wanted. He was never. He had, like I said before, he had his eye on the prize, and he was competitive beyond belief. But he never would put anybody through the mud just to get over top of them and pass them. And what a beautiful and rare thing, man. Like you see it happen far too often, but Bobby was always so cordial with everybody. He never saw anybody as in his way, but he certainly kept track of how many subscribers everybody had. And he wanted to get past those Nintendo dads. He wanted to get past everybody else. And he was very driven. But I don't know that any of us have really put it out there as clearly as what he wanted. He wanted to do that for a living. He wanted that to be his livelihood, and he went for it. The rest of us, and to certain like varying degrees, I don't know that we are that bold to say, I'm going to go for, I want this, and I'm going to bust my ass for it. Some of us do it as a hobby. We have it on the side. We pull our punches. Bobby didn't pull any punches ever. Mm-hmm. He did whatever it was going to take. And he was so stupidly selfless. Who calls it you, me, Capri? He's the Nintendo guru. I told him, I don't know, countless times, I'm like, put your name on the thing. I'm the sidekick. I'm in the co-pilot
I love
seat.
that about it, because there's like 400 Discord rooms, and then there's Sean's.
I got a little Capri
Xbox Drive.
It was, but his name is on the entire Discord.
I talked to him countless times about that. Like, make it you. You're the pull. I'm just here for the ride. And everybody knew that. He put in the work. He put, like, for every reason. There's a trillion reasons why it should have been the Nintendo Guru Patreon and friends or something like that. And he was adamant about it. He's like, no, it's you, me, Capri. He was so selfless about that. As much as we like to poke fun of him for having the big head, having the ego, being the jersey, he was so selfless about everything. He pushed everybody into the spotlight. The greatest co-host in all the land.
I'm gonna have to go listen to more of those now.
He's the best, man. He is just the best.
Thank you for saying all that, Sean.
Thank you guys for letting me say it. Get to crash your party and just cry a little bit here.
Hey, the moment
Drewby's in the chat, man.
Had to extend the invite just in case. I didn't know if you were ready or not, but I was absolutely.
I didn't think I was, but I still don't know.
Wanted to be here.
Thanks, man. Well, I was saying to you when I called you, I'm like, I don't know why, but I just like, Donnie's the guy I just need to talk to about this. I don't know what it was. I'm just like,
oh, I love you, Sean.
Love you too, man.
You know that. Everybody in PSVG land knows that. Like, it's a very adopted, accepted rule. We ride or die with Sean Capri.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie hates Patreon until Sean goes, hey, do you want to join Patreon? Yeah, I do, Sean. I do want to join now. Like, yeah. Like,
well, I'm glad you guys got your standalone feeds as well. That's really the win. He's got Shaq on its own standalone feed. The most popular Nintendo podcast on the internet.
That is not true.
At some point in the future, maybe somebody will look back on this and it will be the most popular.
Remember that show Rebecca used to do before she joined?
She blew up.
Like, man,
Stop it.
she used to be on like this indie thing that nobody knew about.
It's called Shaq something.
This is podcast made out of like spare wood in the backyard.
Well, I think that's a really good place to kind of leave it here and segue. So that's going to do it for this week on Nintendo Shack. Hope you guys liked it. I'm looking at the runtime here. I think most definitely will cut this into 2 podcasts. I don't think the feed would accept it. So we'll put out 2 podcasts, but they're definitely worth listening to both of them. So if you've stuck around to the very end, folks in the chat, I see you, Yarden, I see you, Ed, Kyle, Mike's still here.
Wow.
And Tiger, welcome. Thank you guys so much for hanging out to the very, very end with us. And then if you guys are listening home, we really appreciate it. We hope you guys love Shaq and the Hangouts and the Pokemon and all that. But I really hope you got to know Nintendo Guru. And you should have if you listen to our show. He's been around plenty of times, so you should have known him. But if you don't, you missed out, and maybe you should go check it out because he was pretty special. And I think the collective internet's proving that. If it was somebody else, I don't think it'd be the same, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just had a toe, you know, as collectively like pushing as you know, as collaboration. You know, it's just very, very far reaching in a way that just very few people can amount to. And that's a lasting legacy. It's got all these people.
He just kept finding people. He just kept finding people.
Yeah. So that's going to do it this week in the Nintendo Shack. We appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next week. Good night, Coupons. I don't know where video is.